your children to how that household is ran, I would expect my child, and I would expect myself, Nathan, when you're in another parent's household, that's their household. You do what their parents say, and you go along with how they discipline their children. Full stop. End of discussion. That's it. If their parents have rules or whatever, and you think they're too weird or you don't like it, then you don't send your kid to that household. But that's their household, and while you're in their house, you respect their rules. Period. Full stop. Like, but anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So.
Oh yeah, but anyway, I'm just saying like fundamentally, like I think other nations have sovereignty that has to be respected. I understand the emotional desire to like inflict like some pain or damage on a country that's not following like our kind of morality, but like how do you?
It's not pain or damage. It's protection or prevention of harm. I think you have an obligation or a responsibility to protect the other citizens of any other nation. They don't just cease to be moral agents just because somebody else is doing the harm and it's half the world away.
But then does. The problem is that this is going to be really unsatisfying, but like harm is subjective, no?
Well, yeah, sure, harm is subjective, but there's some degree of harm where you absolutely have to step in at some
I agree
point,
with
right?
that, and I think that's kind of what bodies like the UN are for.
No, but the bodies like the UN are basically bought off by dictatorships like authoritarian China, so they can pass whatever. The UN for the last 30 years has more or less just been dictators saying whatever.
Hold on. I don't think it's that the UN is bought off. It can feel that way, but I'm pretty sure the structure of the UN is intentional to ensure that there's not conflict between massive nations, right? That's why China has a seat on the Security
and
Council.
So that's why the UN General Council can just pass whatever they want condemning the United States when you have Saudi Arabia as the head of the Human Rights Commission, because no one gives a shit. It's just whoever has the most votes, and China goes out to the rest of the world and plays games with them to get them to vote however they want in the UN. And we ignore it because we know it means nothing and it has nothing to do with our rights and obligations
sure, but I mean, like
as citizens of the world.
Yeah, but that speaks to the incongruent moral values of countries across the planet. I just don't think that you have the authority as a country to step into another country and say, you're harming your citizens in a way that we define harm and you don't, and we're going to stop it. Because that gives us theoretically like moral authority over... I agree that there's some cases where like this needs to be stopped. So like UN and NATO and shit. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go back to the household example, right?
Sure.
So our neighbor or your neighbor beats their wife, and eventually the state's going to intervene with force to stop his neighbor from beating his wife. Mm-hmm. But he's using force within the household. She knew when she was getting married that he was going to beat her whenever he didn't make her dinner or something, right? Mm-hmm. You very clearly are accepting that there's an intervention that needs to happen, even if both people, or even if the person in the household consented for it, or even if they don't. There's going to be some escalation to force when we find harms that are happening.
There's going to be like a sliding thing, but like. The issue is that when you talk about the husband beating the wife, the husband is violating laws that all of us are subject to, similar to like a world court. So in that case, yeah, you should intervene.
But why are they subject? Why are we subject to that law? Because we think that it's harmful for people to...
No, not because we think it's harmful. It's because your buy-in to being in any nation explicitly demands your compliance with that set of rules. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or don't agree with them. Like those are the rules.
Okay, but everybody's living on the same planet. Don't we need a global buy-in for things like global warming?
There is no global government. And we do try to get global buy-ins, but that's why we do these like really complicated multilateral agreements between like huge bodies. But there is no global government to mandate one set of rules for the whole world. I just think in Saudi Arabia, we would argue that there's a lot of abuses between like gay people or even women being disenfranchised to some extent. Like, do we have like the moral authority to go into that country to save gay people? Like, what if an LGBT?
Well, I think you would have to balance. I think you have to balance what's happening with the deaths to LGBT people versus the other harm that we would do by causing an actual invasion, because you're going to be killing lots of people. There's going to be some threshold that you're going to have to overcome. For weaker nations, that bar is a lot lower. Right. And then if you're looking at invading a country like China, who's literally genociding the Uyghurs, who has already genocided everyone in Tibet, well, going to war with China is going to have significantly higher thresholds of harm needed to go to than, say, invading Lesotho or something like that.
Sure, I guess we get into some weird kind of utilitarian math, though. But then we also get into a weird world where countries are like incentivized to just do enough harm to like not draw the ire of like the world. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think in general, I think you're going to have to respect the sovereignty of other nations, even if they do things you don't like the Taliban, unfortunately. But I mean...
I don't think you have to respect people's rights just because they're in another nation. And they can do whatever they want because that's...
Well, do you recognize nations as being things that are worth, like, recognizing, like an independent nation? Because it feels like your whole perspective is you're talking about, like, a global society where we just have people everywhere and some people need to be protected. But like I don't view them that way. I view them like you're citizens of these countries. In a utopian world,
sure, but even in a realist perspective, yes, we should respect countries' rights and they should have differences between them. But at some point, we have to recognize that there is explicit harms that are unacceptable.
Sure. So like chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, these are things on the world stage that we recognize as like...
I would say stopping 20 million people, 20 million women from going to school and subjecting them to not being able to go outside without a parental or a male guardian is something way beyond the line of anything that's
And I think
acceptable.
harsh condemnation in the form of sanctions or tariffs maybe could be okay, but invading them because they've got a whole different organizational structure, that's a hard one. I don't know.
Yeah, then you just push all of them into the same thing that we had before, where we had the Soviet Union, but now it's going to be under China and the rest of the authoritarian dictatorships all under one.
Sure, but again, like that authoritarianism isn't necessarily like a moral wrong. That's just we have a difference of opinion well, not like you and me would agree. Obviously, that authoritarianism is bad, but like it's just a difference of opinion.
I don't think authoritarian itself is necessarily bad. I think it's just the outcomes that you see. You can necessarily have a beneficial or a beneficent dictator.
Isn't this essentially Russia's argument against the West that liberalism and democracy have led to the degradation of society or whatever? People like that Dugin guy or whatever are talking about how the moral decay of the West has happened off of the backs of basically liberal and democratic governments. Like,
yeah, but there's a difference, I think, fundamentally between moral decay of, I'm going to go out and have sex with 20 women and do a lot of drugs, and I'm going to kill or enslave people.
Maybe, I don't know. Some people view some of these things as being really, really, really bad. Obviously, we don't care that much, but other people would view this as being like literally the destruction of the modern family and like modern civil society. Like, I don't agree with that. I'm just saying that I think that those are opposing points of view that have to be considered if we're going to enter a world where we have the moral authority to like enter countries and stop people from doing things.
Yeah, but at this point, we had already entered the country and we had already stopped them from doing that. And 2 generations or a generation and a half worth of Afghan women are just now back enslaved. And I think
Can I ask you something about that, Rage?
Yeah, go.
Wait, real quick, before you guys go back, hold on. Someone sent this in chat. What is your line where the other family punishing your kid is too far? Would that be the same as where you think the police should step in, like belting or caning your kid is too far? Okay, hold on. There's going to be, when I say spanking, I'm very specifically referring to like you spank somebody, like you slap them on the butt or whatever. That's like a spank to me. If my kid went to a house and he came back with fucking marks because he got like smacked with a switch or like a fucking belt, we're gonna have big problems. That's not what I'm talking about. Like he goes to the house and they like beat the fucking shit out of him. Like that's obviously not within like the normal realm of expected behavior. But I'm sure there are parents that discipline kids in ways that I don't agree with. But as long as my kid is under somebody else's house, that parent has authority under that house. You have to follow their rules. You have to deal with their consequences. That's it. When I say spanking, I don't mean like belting or beating the shit out of somebody. Yeah. But sorry.
Okay. Saw with your kid.
Yeah.
Pisco.
Okay. So okay, go Pisco. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you in favor? You're not in favor of war with Iran right now, are you?
I think that point's already passed. I think they're too close to nuclear weapons. I think in the 2000s, yes, I think it would have been a much better time to do it.
Okay, but you're not. The reason you're not in favor of a war with Iran is because they're close to having nuclear weapons.
Yes, yeah, and I think they're a lot stronger than they were. I think we had a much bigger confederation of people that would be going to war with us. That would make it a lot more asymmetric. And I think they were doing a lot more active harm to us through the killing of tens of thousands, or I guess thousands of soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan.
And in Israel
similar,
too. Like, yeah.
Similar reasons for why you wouldn't be in favor of war against Saudi Arabia.
Yes, yeah.
Having to do with the cost of war itself.
Yes.
Are you in favor of going back into Afghanistan now?
I would have to think about that. I would say, as time goes on, I would say more yes. I think the biggest problem now with Afghanistan, why I would say yes to going back, is because of the increased presence of ISK, not necessarily the Taliban being in charge, if that makes sense.
If it's not enough for them being in charge, why would it be enough?
Because the amount of lives, the amount of lives, the cost to go back is going to be significantly more than maintaining the status quo, right? So your barrier to entry is going to be much higher, and the country is going to be destabilized for much longer than it would have been if we stayed there in an alternate universe.
But the amount of harm that they're doing to their citizens now wouldn't justify intervention, or at least in Iran, right? Or Saudi Arabia.
No, I don't think so. I think there's more. Yeah, there'd be more harm in the rest of the world if we did that.
Do you at all consider the potential ramifications to United States, whether that's its appearance to the international community or its soft power that might be made worse if we're in the game of just invading small countries who don't have a strong enough military for it to make it not worth it?
I think that we've seen interventions where America has done a lot of very good for a lot of small nations. I think it's only very recently that we've had a couple of ones that have gone poorly. And I think America has been pretty highly respected and regarded around the world for that. I don't think necessarily
Would
that
you wait real
going
quick,
into
just in
places
clarifying that? Would you say that that would be true like pre-90s? Like up through 60s, 70s, 80s? You think most of like America's foreign policy was respected around the world?
I think that's a fundamentally different reason for intervention.
Okay, just making sure, because
Yeah.
people are going to
Yeah,
cry
so
for
I think
explaining
I'm
that.
80s,
coping, but
80s. Sorry,
I think one of the reasons why we had so much trouble leading up to the Ukraine intervention, where no one was like believing America. Well, some people were, right? Our own State Department, obviously, America had its perspective, but you guys talk to people who are like, they're never going to invade. I think the many different countries, including Ukraine, were skeptical that Ukraine was going to be invaded. One of the reasons was because no one like trusts America based on its previous interventions. No one trusted America based on what happened in Iraq and previously in the Cold War. It's just a pattern of interventions that didn't make people better off where they existed. You know, maybe the exception of Korea or something. But
I would disagree with that.
you don't think
Pretty
so?
wholeheartedly. No, I don't think so.
The American interventions in countries in Latin America, you think were justified and good?
In the context of what we were fighting against the Soviets, yes. In terms of the outcomes, they were pretty bad. They were pretty brutal.
Well, not even
If it was
necessarily the
good to
outcomes. It
coup,
felt like people, it felt like America, when America was supporting somebody in a South American country, it doesn't seem like the goal was to support what would be best for the people. It seemed like the goal was very wholly aligned with what would be best for U.S. interest, and that was it. Sometimes to the detriment, arguably, of the people there.
Yeah, well, at the same time, we were literally flying bombers around the clock with nuclear weapons because we were very afraid the entire world would go down, and we needed to show to the rest of the allies or the rest of the nations in the world that if they aligned with us, we could protect them, and if not, that there might be consequences for going with the other side. I think it's a fundamentally different time period than the 90s and 2000s. You're no longer in a multipolar world, and you're no longer under the shadow of nuclear Armageddon.
So can we take just Chile for an example? So
Sure.
America, by most accounts, orchestrated this is actually, you know, I'm not a tanky, but a CIA-led coup of a democratic country to install a military dictatorship. You think that was justified?
In the context of the fight against the Soviets, yes. If that had happened without the Soviet Union, then absolutely not.
What do our values mean if like what is this whole point about democracy and
So democracy only matters in so much as that you can survive. If your entire civilization is going to be wiped out, I think could be wiped out, I think things are fundamentally different. In times like now, where there's not that threat of nuclear Armageddon, I think you have a right and an obligation to protect people around the world. And when there's the specter of nuclear destruction over your head, you're dealing with something fundamentally different.
okay, but you're taking away the things that are we're taking away things that are what is making the moral difference between Americans and other countries. You're in the name of American hegemony, you're detracting, my opinion, my perception, right? Maybe I'm wrong about this, and maybe the trade-off is worth it in some of these cases. I won't lie and say that every intervention is not justified. Some interventions must be justified, but when you're doing things like deliberately overthrowing a democratic regime, which by all accounts, it wasn't like
a democratic regime that supported the enemy, to be clear.
But that was their choice, right?
There was no way to overthrow the pro-Soviet regime and not install a dictatorship. So if there was an opportunity to overthrow the current regime and then install a democratic government, then yes, that would have been the preferred outcome. But that's not an outcome that's possible.
So if it really was the case that people in Chile, right? You're assuming, I don't really know the history here, if Salvador Allende was like just
he was extremely popular.
Well, of course he was a socialist, right? But even assuming that, let's say that the genuine will of the Chilean people was to be aligned to the Soviet Union. You don't care about that.
So if it's the genuine will of the Canadians to come south of the border and kill every American that lives, do you think that they have a right to, just because it's their will?
No, I don't think that they have a right to, but shouldn't some? It seems like you have no stake whatsoever in the autonomous decisions of regions.
that's a fundamentally different decision that you're making in the Cold War versus doing it in the 90s or the
But the whole point
2000s.
of America intervening in these places is like to put in democracies, right? That's the whole
It's not to
logic.
put in democracies. No, it's not to put in democracies. So there are in times when we intervene to establish democracies or establish less corrupt, less murderous areas or dictatorships or regimes. And there are times when we're doing it out of self-defense of the Western way of life.
Okay, and so where would you put? Where's Vietnam on that list? Where's
So
Afghanistan and
Vietnam,
Iraq on that list?
so Afghanistan is definitely on the establishing a better place or just protecting the American way of life. Same with Iraq, I would say.
Wait. Which
Is
one is it?
probably,
Wait, establishing a better place?
it's to some extent it evolved into establishing a better place. But at the very beginning, the initial attack in Afghanistan was to protect the American way of life. We went to the Taliban. We asked them if we could operate in there to find and hunt down Al Qaeda, but instead the Taliban harbored them and said we aren't welcome in their nation. So we just destroyed the entire nation, and we could have just left it at that point. And then we transitioned the mission into, okay, well, maybe we should probably make the place a better place instead of just going in, destroying their entire nation and leaving, because we are absolutely justified to do that
In
in
So
Afghanistan.
the scope of the mission changed as the mission progressed, or
Correct.
what the goals were, which I don't have a problem with that in principle, but it just seems like we let's say the
So you're
Afghanistan
saying
people actually want like an Islamist regime, or
okay,
actually
so
want.
you think it's okay for them to harbor international terrorists that
No,
continue to operate attacks
no,
on
I don't.
America? Okay, so then it was justified then to go into
Hang on a
Afghanistan.
second. Just because you think that they don't have that we can intervene and go in and stop terrorists doesn't mean necessarily think that full scale war for 20 years is the
Oh,
correct course of outcome.
okay, so we go in, we destroy the Taliban that were in charge, that were harboring international terrorists. We continue to hunt down other terrorist regimes in the country. What do we do? Do we say okay, well, now the next Islamist government can come in and take over now that we've created a giant power vacuum? Because that was ISIS. That would have been ISIS if we just pulled out in 2008 when we did mission accomplished.
But what the unfortunate conclusion of that is, okay, there's terrorists that are being trained in
Pakistan and Iran.
Pakistan, Afghanistan. Guess what? There are terrorists who are being trained in madrasas in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's problematic. But I think fundamentally that one, Saudi Arabia has managed to
Well,
somewhat control it, and two, we weren't already invaded into Saudi Arabia at that point.
I would also say, hold on the back of that. This is a guess because I don't know like formally how we function, but my guess is going to be is that if there was some like well-defined terrorist group that existed within Saudi Arabian borders, and we said, hey, this shit is going on, either you need to get rid of them or we're going to come in and do something. My guess is there would be some kind of cooperation there, no, or no,
No, not really.
to the same level as the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Yes, but they operate in other countries that aren't the West, so we turn a blind eye the same way that we
Okay,
turn
wait.
a blind eye to all.
Operate on it, then this isn't the same then. So my analogy was that if there was a terrorist group that operated out of Saudi Arabia that was attacking the United States or U.S. soldiers, my guess is that yeah.
They are attacking U.S.
What? Okay,
soldiers.
wait. So what are these groups that we have no?
Let me take a good
Sorry, I'm not trying to like get you on like what is exactly whatever.
Yeah.
It's just my guess. Like if somebody like the Taliban or somebody was operating out of Saudi Arabia, I feel like the level of cooperation would just be way higher than it was with Afghanistan, where the Taliban essentially said, "Fuck off, we're not doing shit."
Okay, all right, I'm pulling up the state.gov report on this. So, terrorist activities.
Rachel, at bottom, I'm just asking, like, does it matter at all to you? Like, it seems like whenever it matters, you can like cite democracy and individual rights and all that stuff to justify interventions. But when it's convenient to you, sometimes they don't matter.
I think
they don't matter
because there's
Chile.
two different justifications that you can have for intervention, right? You can have we should intervene on behalf of democracy, and then there's we should intervene on our behalf to defend the state. And those are
They
two fundamental.
they get conflated and they change,
Sure.
whenever it's convenient.
I don't think it's necessarily whenever it's convenient. I think that so in Afghanistan specifically, it was to defend Western values, to defend ourselves from terrorism.
Yeah, and then
so
it became to make this a better place.
So Okay, well, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to just blow everyone up, leave, and then have to come back in 5 years because terrorists come back over, or do you think you have to clean up and make sure that you have something thriving there?
We're just gonna have to come. That's why I'm asking. Why isn't it just a clear case that that we should go back into Afghanistan now? You seem to be like, oh, I'm not sure.
Because we're not having explicit attacks from Afghanistan.
But it's
yet.
Inevitable under.
Yes, sure.
Okay,
and then in 5 years and 10 years,
we might be back there. But the whole rationale of not leaving is that it's inevitable, and so why?
But it's inevitable. It's not inevitable if you're willing to stay there long enough.
Right. So if it isn't, we didn't stay, right? And so therefore it is inevitable that more terrorists are going to attack us from Afghanistan. Why do you communicate about whether or not we should go back in? Like we should go back in, right?
Because there's not enough terrorists. There's not a critical mass of terrorists, right?
But it's going to happen. So, right, if it's inevitably going to happen, why not just go in?
Because whatever reason Joe Biden wanted to pull out. Like,
why don't you want us? No, you. I'm asking you. Like, what do you want? Do you want us to invade Afghanistan again right now?
No, not right now. We'll just wait.
We have to wait until there's a critical mass?
Well, you can't just pre-crime people. Maybe it becomes better. There's no way to know. You can't just pre-crime people. You can't put people into jail because you think that they're going to do something, even if you're watching them, monitoring them, and as soon as they do something, then. Yeah.
But it is the justification to just stay the course and stay in Afghanistan.
Yes, because again, your barrier to entry is a lot lower, and I don't know.
Don't you think there needs to be like a really good, like universal, I don't know, multilateral effort to do these kinds of regime change efforts?
Sure. Yeah. What do you think happened in Afghanistan? Yeah.
That was, hang on, the initial justification there wasn't regime change, or wasn't nation building, was it?
No, it wasn't. But that's basically, in order to promote the most stability, you should have a stable regime wherever you leave, be it an authoritarian dictatorship that is aligned with you, or be it a democratic government that's able to function on its own.
So by definition, then wouldn't every intervention, almost by at least the major ones, be regime building efforts?
Sure, yeah.
Or the question, I guess, for Pisco would be, like, do you think that how we left Libya, do you think that was an okay situation to leave? Because basically, it sounds like Pisco's making the argument that every time you walk out afterwards, you're creating a Libya or an ISIS, basically, right?
Yeah, or Somalia.
Well, I think Obama cites Libya as his biggest mistake.
Yeah, but the mistake was that we didn't treat it like Afghanistan, almost, right? Is it arguably, right?
That's a hard question.
Yeah, of course. These are all hard questions. Yeah.
But under Rage Popes, what do we do with... I mean, that's a great question. I honestly think that just letting the Libyan conflict continue without intervention... Remember, this intervention from France, from NATO, from the UN... it's not just American intervention in that case. And even then, right, it turned out in disaster, or at least... The end result of it was a civil war, it seems.
Well, because we went in with a highly limited intervention with no boots on the ground. It was just airstrikes as far as I was concerned.
It had been better to invade with ground troops Libya.
Yes.
Maybe it would have been better to not bomb Libya and like accelerate the power vacuum, right? Because we can't pre-crime people, like you said, Rachel.
Well, hold on. Libya wasn't invaded for pre-crimes, right? Libya was invaded for the actual crimes that Gaddafi was committing against his citizens.
How many people did he kill in a chemical weapon attack after Obama drew his red line? How many thousands was it?
Wasn't that Syria, the red line?
Or sorry, Syria, yeah.
Well, hold on. Syria is not a good example for you, Rachel, because we didn't actually go into Syria, right? We didn't treat Syria like Libya. No, Russia went into Syria to support Syria, right? We only arguably maybe funneled weapons and money through other countries, but we didn't actually do anything with Syria. But that's because Russia was already there, right?
My question would be, would Obama consider his biggest mistake not like occupying Libya to try to set up a liberal democracy or nation build, or was he considering just the bombing strikes to just accelerate the power vacuum?
I think he said that just not having a strategy a strategy afterwards, not necessarily that he wanted to invade, but I don't think that he conceded that it would be a good idea to invade. I just think that the idea was just bomb and get Gaddafi out of power and then it'll be fine and just leave him to do whatever.
Yeah, but this is like the question is, what ought the strategy be? Is what we kind of are wondered, I
Yes.
guess, right? Because we had the Afghanistan strategy, we did Iraq, we did Libya. Well, we had nothing for Libya. Like, what should the strategy be?
Yeah, so Syria, sorry, from the Russian perspective, they did what America was trying to do in Afghanistan. They went in, they propped up a regime, and they made a stable ally in the nation. It's the same thing that we did
Wait,
throughout
hold
the
on.
entire
I don't think the comparison works. In Syria, that's different because there was an already stable regime in place that Russia went down to support. That's a little bit different than in Afghanistan. We were trying to set up a totally new government, right?
Sure, but the Syrian government wasn't in conflict with Russia, and it was aligned with Russian interests.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that Russia, from their perspective, Russia went down to Syria to support a stable government that was having to fight rebels within the country. We essentially went to support our kind of
A
rebels.
dictatorial country that was...
Doesn't matter if it's
also
dictatorial. It was a stable country that
Okay,
was running.
then
And
we should have intervened in Serbia. That was a stable nation. Or sorry, Bosnia, when they were genociding everyone in Kosovo.
Hold on.
because it was Kosovo and rifles.
Differences. First of all, yeah, Serbia was fine to intervene in, okay? Syria would have been fine to intervene in. The reason why we didn't intervene in Syria has nothing to do with what Assad did. It had to do with the fact that Russia was there, right? That's why we didn't intervene in Syria. I believe the idea is that a direct intervention in Syria would have wrought the ire of, like, literally Russia, and we would have been in very fucked situations very quickly. But with Libya, it wasn't quite the case. I'm pretty sure that there's like a statement by Putin that after watching Gaddafi getting raped by bayonets, that he was never going to let another country fall that was aligned to him like that again. And Syria, because of the Mediterranean and the Port of Tartus and all that, like, they represented a really big strategic interest for Russia as well, right? It's like their only warm water port, I think, in the winter.
Jesus, Rage Pope just hacked into the Matrix to
Yeah, I
fucking
see.
get all this information. Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying that, like, Syria, arguably, I think Assad, arguably, maybe, I don't know if he was worse than Gaddafi, but Assad was a bad dude, and we could have gone after him, but we couldn't because Putin was never going to let that happen. And arguably, the moral authority kind of rests on the already sovereign nation more so than the guy committing chemical weapons attacks, which sucks, but, like, it's different than us going to Afghanistan to create a whole new government and a whole new society. I think that's fundamentally different, I would say. Even though it all kind of sucks. Not to say that any of these answers are easy, but I would say it's different. Sorry, go ahead.
Sprim, what do you have to add?
I'm also just curious. I just really, there's so much I have to learn about, the history of the war and the war on terror or whatever. But it seems like we moved very quickly from we need to go and hunt down Al-Qaeda to, hey, look at how bad the Taliban is. We need to go to Afghanistan and eliminate the Taliban and nation build. It does seem like there was some effort there. I remember
Sure.
oh, go ahead.
Well, wait,
I was
what
going
do
to
you-
say, but is that not just propaganda shift as to reasons why we're there? I mean, if we're in 2003, 2004, 2005, there's not a whole lot going on in Afghanistan when it comes to a terrorist hunting perspective. Is it not just fine to keep public interest in the war effort by saying we need to rebuild Afghanistan? We have a moral obligation.
Well, if we eliminate Al-Qaeda and they were hiding out in Afghanistan, why does that raise the question of rebuilding Afghanistan if the Taliban was still in play? Like, how does that manifest?
So the reason why we started engaging with the Taliban was because they explicitly were harboring Al-Qaeda and they wouldn't let us operate in the country. So they became our enemy by their own volition, not because we wanted to do regime change initially. So now that you have to do regime change, what do? Do you just kill them all and leave, or do you rebuild? Like, that was forced upon us.
Well, but it was if it was forced upon us, it was forced in the first instance. If you're saying that they weren't letting us operate and the only choice was to invade and occupy,
Well, hang on.
then it was at the same time that you developed the intention to take out the terrorists, you developed the intention to occupy and have regime change.
I have a better
Sure,
question.
but
Wait, hang on. I have a better question. Where did we actually kill bin Laden?
We killed them in Pakistan.
Yeah, they were harboring him, right? We didn't have to go to
Yes.
war with Pakistan.
Yeah.
didn't
Well,
have to-
hold
It was
on.
ridiculous
on.
that they could
Pakistan.
literally walk across a border, a line in the sand, and we could no longer shoot at them.
Yeah, and also, hold on, this is different too, because even though bin Laden was being harbored in Afghanistan, or I'm sorry, in Pakistan, I don't know if killing bin Laden was necessarily like, we kind of wanted to do that in Afghanistan, but I think the big thing was like stopping Al-Qaeda. And I think the problem was Al-Qaeda was allowed to operate with impunity within Taliban-controlled areas, and that's why we wanted to go in and get rid of them. Not just hunting down one guy, right?
Well, sure, but they were also
bin
operating out
Laden's
of
an
Pakistan.
example.
Sure, they might have been, yeah,
So-
well, but Pakistan has nukes, so what are you going to do? Like,
What do you mean?
just what I said. We're never invading Pakistan for the same reason India has to be careful in Kashmir. They're not going to go and fucking start huge fights with a country that has nuclear weapons.
So I guess I would just ask, if Pakistan didn't have nukes, would that have given us the same moral authority to just go over there and nation build and like completely, topple whatever semblance of government Pakistan had and just like assemble one in our own image?
I would say yes. I think these guys
I
would
just
say
think
no.
it's not successful, right? We have some track records of success in, I would say, Korea and in
Kosovo and Japan.
yeah. But
Bosnia?
by and large, I think a lot of these efforts where we're totally toppling regimes and totally trying to change their governments, it's messy and it engenders opposition in America domestically, that where it doesn't seem to be having the results that we would. And if it were the case that it would be successful, we could put flourishing democracies or flourishing societies everywhere we invaded, I think I'd be all in favor of it. But isn't the track record of success a lot more messy?
Yeah, and it takes time, right? Korea and Taiwan, famously, it took decades for them to pull themselves out of military.
I think it depends on how far back you want to go and how you want it to look, because arguably the strategy that Rage Pope is talking about, and it's a bit different, but I mean, you could argue that this is what we did with like Japan and Germany, who are two incredibly close US allies now. Like, we fucked the countries up, but afterwards we were involved in like regime change and regime building and everything, no?
Yeah, well, I mean, our way of going about that, we've loaned like massive amounts of money to those countries, right? Like immediately out of the gate.
Yeah, we gave them lots of money. I want to say the total amount of money that went to rebuilding Afghanistan was like less than $100 billion between everybody combined.
And that's a mistake, right? And if we can't get over that mistake by reaching the American people and telling them why we need to like just dedicate billions and billions of dollars to not like military arms,
he's making the case that it wasn't enough money.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I understand that. So like, if we need to be investing $3 trillion into Afghanistan to make it a successful place, and we didn't do that, then that shows the strategy, because we couldn't do that for political reasons. That shows that that's a failing of the strategy.
I don't even think it was political reasons. I think that no one had any idea what they were doing, and that's fundamentally the reason why Afghanistan ended up the way it is, because it was too little too late. I don't think we even gave them any aid money until 2004. And even then, it was just like a pittance. After
it's major incompetence on behalf of...
there are legitimate challenges.
The mission wasn't to rebuild. The mission when we went to Afghanistan was not to induce regime change. It was...
Hang on. Yes, it was. You said that you can't just go someplace and just destroy things and leave. And so,
but you absolutely can't. That's what the plan was at the beginning, was just kill everything. And then we realized, oh shit, well, we can't do this, and now we have to do something.
Huh.
Like he's saying that this is the logical outcome of things. Now we know this, obviously, but initially when we went to Afghanistan, yes, naive. And I think you can see with how we handled the aftermath of Iraq, America is very naive when it comes to like dealing with other nations and setting up governments. It's something we were
so it's the same thing that happened with the beginning of the IMF. They gave out a lot of loans. They didn't fundamentally understand the nations that they were giving the loans to, and how to restructure what they actually needed to do. They didn't understand that certain government programs are, basically client state indulgences or welfare programs, and that in the very beginning, the IMF made a lot of mistakes forcing countries to cut certain programs, and it destroyed those nations because they took those IMF loans. But we had lessons learned from the IMF.
Well, I just want to understand. So we didn't know, in point in fact, what we should have known but didn't know, what we learned through experience, was that these interventions, you have to have a regime change component to it, because you can't just leave everything to chaos when you get out.
Yep.
And that was learned through
Or
experience.
at the very least, if not a regime change component, some massive post-war support or something. Like there has to be some stable structure in place. You can't leave a country in chaos, I think.
Oof. Okay, so then good.
I think we're overlooking some other challenges that really existed with Afghanistan as well. Even I think with our best efforts that we would have run into, like proxy wars with Iran and support from Pakistan, and the fact that it's cradled in there with all of our adversaries.
Yeah, I would point back to that. If we were going to expand war into Iran, it should have been in the 2000s when they were explicitly arming paramilitaries or directly killing our soldiers overseas. If there was a time, it would have been then, not now.
Wait, are you talking about Iran?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, not the crazy shit that Trump did, and just unilaterally pulling out of the JCPOA, the strike on Soleimani. It was like a decade too late at that point.
Do you think Iran has a nuke?
They said that they do, or they said that they have the components, which basically make it impossible to stop. And I would say that given the large amount of operations Israel has run in broad daylight, assassinating Iranian scientists, that they were getting pretty close. Otherwise, they wouldn't be burning assets inside of Tehran proper to kill people if they weren't close. So my guess is that they do. I don't have any classified intelligence or anything like that, but my guess is that they probably effectively have a nuke at this point.
Can I ask, so further to the question of why not just invade Afghanistan now, in response to that, you said you can't just invade for pre-crimes. Why?
Well, so
If you know it's going to happen, why not?
well, it's the most probable outcome. It's not necessarily. It's not guaranteed to happen.
Okay, if you think it's the
One,
most
and then
probable
two,
outcome, why? Like, why not just invade? What's the problem? What's stopping you? You say we can't pre-crime, but like, why? Just get to the substance of like surrounding that opinion.
I don't know how to run back other morals, but basically, I think you can't just say, okay, well, black people are poor in America and they're more likely to commit crime, so we should just put them all in prison because they're more likely to be prisoners, right? It's the same logic that you would run through that.
Do you think it's highly probable that Afghanistan that will be forced to invade Afghanistan in the future because of their harboring of terrorists?
Well, the thing is, they might fall under China's umbrella, and then we'll no longer have that opportunity, or Iran's umbrella.
I feel like you already answered this too with the whole pre-crime thing. I'm curious I'm curious about your assessment of Pinochet in Chile and stuff. Like it seemed
He was a very brutal dictator.
well, it seemed like you were happy to sort of like brush that aside or excuse that because of our greater conflict with Russia or whatever.
Well, I mean, I guess it's the lesser of
Soviet
two evils at that point, right?
Well, how is that not a pre-crime situation?
The rage quote. Hold on. So the rage quote thing has to be understood in a greater macro set of events. So he's not concerned about the individual nations. What Rage Pope is saying is that in one world, you're on a clear path towards the Soviet Union defeating the United States on the global stage, and that would engender a whole bunch of like potential nuclear warfare, potential toppling of other American regimes, potentially the destruction of America itself. So within the macro context of that, fighting over these micro conflicts like different nations and getting people to be more on the side of democracy versus the side of socialism would justify that.
But there can't be pre-crimes, and what Supreme is saying is,
but that wouldn't be a pre-crime. That's not a pre-crime.
The crime is electing someone.
Yes, the crime is joining the Soviet Union. There is no
pre-crime
pre-crime.
would be that they would align with the Soviet Union, right?
Well, but that's kind of what you're at,
the
right?
crime is that they aligned by voting in Allende.
Yeah.
That's the crime. I mean, how do you feel about that in terms of who decides? Like, who decides what's a okay leader to elect? It's just the American intelligence service.
Did
we have a vote on this?
I would say we have a veto power, not a vote. In certain circumstances, yes, you should have a veto power. I don't think if a nation decides that, let's say that I don't know, Australia all of a sudden decides they want to genocide all the natives there. I think we have the right to intervene, or New Zealand, let's just say they want to genocide all the Maoris there because they vote that in. I think we have an obligation to step in and protect those people. I don't think it matters that they're sovereign.
Right. If you give me some very, very strong example, I'm not a person who says intervention is never wrong. I don't think that Supreme is a kind of person who says intervention is, always wrong. But like, there were many countries aligned with the Soviet Union, or who tried to be aligned with the Soviet Union in the Cold War. Egypt was playing America off the Soviet Union to a certain extent during the Cold War. Should we have invaded Egypt to make sure that they were pro-Western?
But the thing is, they were playing on both sides, and we fundamentally understood that, and there wasn't anything else going on in the country. If they had voted in somebody who was going to be pro-Soviet Union, I think, yes, you would have had intervention justified at that point, because they're controlling a major trade route through the world. For a lot of these other nations, they were irrelevant on a global scale. And so it doesn't really matter if, again, I'll just use Lesotho, if Lesotho goes over to the Soviet Union, because there's no strategic importance to that.
But if Chile, a country in South America,
yes,
very far away from America, a country America's at peace with Chile, and Allende comes to power through democratic means, pure democratic means, and he's not some, just to put a bow on it, he's not some Kim Jong-un. He's not some genocider. He is instituting policies which America doesn't agree with, and he's socialist in the sense. I don't know. Do you think he's maybe like a Bernie Sanders type? Do you think that's too far?
It's hard to know, especially in the context of the time, and that's not a risk worth taking before all of a sudden you now have Soviet nukes in the southern hemisphere. We had already gone through almost setting the world on fire for Cuba. I think the red line was already drawn around the entire American hemisphere, the same way that we did with the Monroe Doctrine after that embargo. I think there's a very clear red line that was drawn, and the Soviets attempted to cross it, or you can argue that
what gives us the sovereignty to draw that red line over other nations, I think, is Pisco's question. Why do we get to say there's no nukes in the southern hemisphere? Why do we get to say that and make that decision on their behalf?
And no Soviet.
Well, I would say that the Western
nukes,
liberal democracies have a moral right over the authoritarian communist regimes that were in charge, that were gulagging, purging tens of millions of people, that were committing all sorts of crimes against humanity. I would say we absolutely had a moral high ground in that situation.
I'm not going to disagree that I think that the American Western societies were better societies than the communist bloc, but they're better for the reasons why you say that the Chileans committed a crime. They're better because we allow democracy and we allow elections and we care about free speech and all these things that
sure, but that put things at risk.
This isn't even something that's open, right? This isn't something even the Americans have a vote on, or some intervention the Americans can see. This is literally a covert CIA orchestrated coup in
So
South
would it have
America.
been better if we deployed the military, or should we use the least amount of force necessary to
No,
overcome a
I
problem?
think the idea is that no force was, the case had not been made that force was necessary at all.
It wasn't made to the American people. It was made to the CIA and the intelligence
Who are
service.
appointed by American people, or are you going to argue that the SEC isn't viable, the FDA, these other ones, because we appoint them the ability to do certain things?
Well, here's the question. Wait. Let's center this. The question is do we believe that the American people broadly supported Cold War era foreign policy of the United States, or do we think the American people would have said otherwise? Like, given the opportunity to intervene in a lot of these South American countries, do you think America would have said, no, we need to let the Soviet Union expand, or would they say, like, yeah, we need to intervene and risk, whatever? Like, what would the American people have said? It seems to me, without a great understanding of Cold War history, it seems like the American public would have broadly supported those measures because we saw ourselves being at war with it. But I could be wrong on that. But I think that's the question. That's important.
Well, it was kind of at the ship
not,
of Vietnam.
That can't be the axiom that we operate from, right? Because what would the German people have said about the people with German blood and lineage in Austria?
What do you mean?
Okay, they thought that they had a moral right to roll into Austria, right, and fucking reclaim lands that were their ancestral homeland.
Wait, but hold on,
right?
hold on.
Maybe
But
they had public will for that.
Wait.
How does that override the sovereignty of a foreign nation?
Wait. Well, right now what we're talking about, because it sounded like the challenge you were giving was that the American people wouldn't have supported these covert CIA things. But I'm making the argument I think they would. If you want to talk to me about, like, do you think the German people supported Nazi Germany? Seems like broadly they did. So, I mean, I'm not saying this gives us the right to overrule. That's another argument, but it sounded like the challenge was like, well, hold on. Are we going to allow
I think there's a genuine question there. I don't think it's that simple because why else was it clandestine? Why else was it kept completely under wraps for...
Wait, hold on. Wait, why were matters of national intelligence kept under wraps when it came to interfering in foreign nations? The answer is obvious, right?
Okay, for intelligence gathering operations, I think that's a good argument, but not when we're actually like moving to operations and we're executing actions that are like changing around heads of state and foreign governments.
With people we're at peace with,
right?
With allied countries that we're at peace with, and not in a
because that was the least. I would say that in that situation, it was the least amount of force necessary to get an outcome that was favorable to us, and that by releasing that information, we would damage our reputation with other nations around the world, which would cause us further harm later down in the Cold War.
Which is why my question is this: it seems like there was a lot of restructuring of like our intelligence community and the CIA specifically, and of our foreign policy at large. Is this not an affirmation that we recognize that this was bad foreign policy?
I don't think it's bad foreign policy. I just think it's unpopular, and that necessarily what people think isn't always what's best for the world.
So it was right to install Pinochet in Chile.
In those circumstances, yes, Pinochet was a brutal dictator, but the alternative would have been nukes in the southern hemisphere and a massive escalation of a Cold War.
That's a pre-crime stuff. You don't know that he would have accepted.
It's not pre-crime because that's already aligned. Aligned with the Soviets.
Is alignment with Soviet Union mean you have to accept nukes in your country, and that
not necessarily
was inevitability?
Well, wait, hold on. Isn't that almost necessarily? Like, for countries that were in NATO, isn't the assumption that there's going to be military expansion? Wasn't that why in Eastern Germany they specifically negotiated that if German reunification was going to happen, there's absolutely not going to be military here because of the assumption that, like, if you're in NATO, you've got nukes. If you're a part of the Warsaw Pact, you have nukes. Wasn't that kind of an assumption of joining those two different sides? That was why they tried to ship nukes off to Cuba, right? Like, well, hey, they're in Cuba. We can put shit here if we want to. Isn't that kind of... I'm asking. I genuinely don't know, but that would be my assumption. Is like, like joining up with either side means that you become basically a new piece in the game where you can be a staging point for a nuclear attack or some other type. That'd be my assumption.
I think all that hand wringing about nuclear weapons, that's all code. No
wait,
really...
wait. You got to expand on that. Sorry, Go ahead. Sorry. What do you mean by that?
You interrupt me. I can't explain it. Right? Just like what's going on. Do you agree that the whole Ukraine having nukes or having a border with nukes. That's all bullshit arguments from.
Well, yeah, but hold on. So again, my understanding of history is poor, but I feel like I would have a huge separation of the world and foreign policy post 91 versus like 40s to pre 91.
1970s.
It's height of the Cold War.
Nuclear submarines, right? This is post Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay.
Do nukes in Turkey or nukes in Cuba matter in terms of the game?
Yes,
Why?
absolutely.
So
because it requires more resources for detection of launches. It requires more resources to defend those areas. It requires more resources to monitor those locations.
It doesn't change MAD. It doesn't change mutually assertive.
Hold on. Wait.
Yeah, it absolutely does, because because if you don't have the ability to detect incoming nukes, you can be hit from a location where you don't know.
That's what assures the destruction.
Yeah,
and then also
that you can detect them.
For Cuban Missile Crisis stuff, the sophistication of ICBMs and like international like mutually assured destruction was a lot different back then. Like my understanding is one of the motivations for the Cuban Missile Crisis was the Soviet Union did not have a way to reliably deliver nukes to as many parts of the United States as they wanted to. That was one of the reasons why they wanted to ship missiles to Cuba, is to guarantee that they had that second strike capability. So it's not like
nukes in Chile, a country which is many thousands of miles away, I believe, right, from the United States.
Okay, yeah, but now you have to go from fortifying Alaska and California. Yeah, now instead of having to fortify Alaska and California, you have to fortify the entire southern border of America from California to Florida. And then you also have to have planes and submarines in carrier groups deployed down by Chile in case an incident goes there, and you now need giant radar arrays to scan the entire southern hemisphere. At this point, the Soviet Union had a massive radar array that could only point towards Alaska, and they couldn't even run it all the time because they didn't have enough fuel. So
the New Monroe Doctrine is any country in the Americas, you think that for aligning themselves with the Soviet Union, they deserve... Or for being socialist, they deserve even outright invasion, right? So if this had not worked, it would have been justified for America to invade Chile.
In that time period, yes.
Okay.
I think
do you agree? You agree with it?
Like, well, I'm not saying I agree. I'm because you guys came here to bully him, so I'm representing his side. But so my question would be,
what's your opinion, though? I'm curious.
I don't know. This is hard. All the foreign policy in the Cold War era is very fucking complicated, very difficult. I used to be very like hardcore lefty, like, oh yeah, all American isolationism is bad, and then every situation I read about is, whew, this is really complicated. I don't know what the right answer is. But so here's a question for you though, Pisco. Right? Do you think that had nuclear missiles not been pulled out of Cuba, would we have had the moral authority to launch a ground invasion on Cuba to neutralize their nuclear strike capabilities? And then my next question, because I'm not trying to trap you.
If there weren't nukes in Cuba.
Yeah, if nukes went to Cuba for the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Did go to Cuba or they didn't go to Cuba?
Let's say they set up nukes in Cuba and they set them up and they're ready to fire.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have the authority at that point, the moral authority? Would it be righteous of us to invade Cuba? Because if you answer yes to that, then I'm going to... No, you don't think so.
Wait. If they have nukes there?
Yeah.
They did have nukes there, yes.
And thereby potentially cause a nuclear war?
I'm sorry. Let me back up for a second. Like, if you have the ability to invade and prevent those nukes from being set up and ready to go and ready to shoot the United States, do you have the moral authority to invade to prevent that scenario from happening? That's the question.
I think in order to say yes to that, and weren't there ICBMs in Cuba, or
yes, there were nuclear warheads in Cuba contemporaneously. We learned that after the fact. We didn't think that there were, but they were deployed.
Okay, so let's go with the information that existed at the time, right?
Yeah. So they potentially have nuclear weapons.
They're potentially going to get nuclear weapons. Yeah. In order for it to be justified, you have to think that. Don't you agree, right, that if these ICBMs don't change the calculus at all in terms of the security, that it Rage Pope. When I say if, right? I'm trying to
also, real quick, when we define ICBMs, an ICBM is just a missile, right? The nuclear warhead is a separate thing. Yeah. ICBM is just a delivery system, right? But go ahead.
When I say if, Rage Pope, I'm trying to define the scope of like our principles to see where you agree. Okay. And so I'm not making a statement of. I'm not a security expert, so I'm going to tell you right now. I don't know. Nuclear. I won't be able to. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to claim to know.
Don't worry, Supreme is.
Thing is. So I'm just going to use these statements to see what we think.
Yeah, okay.
If it was the case that it didn't change the security structure of and nuclear deterrence or any of that, you would agree that the Cuban Missile, the blockade, and any invasion would be unjustified.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
If it was the case that these nuclear missiles weren't some weren't changing the security state of the world in any significant
I,
sense,
I no, I don't think so.
you
I
would
think
still
we would
be in
still-
favor of invading them.
Yes.
We had other reasons that I think gave us the
Yeah.
authority to invade Cuba.
Which was
Wait, what were the other reasons?
Like,
Go Supreme.
it makes a great vacation spot.
Good one.
bro.
Okay, nice fucking.
This
name.
is
was
what.
gonna-
Nice
I
fucking.
mean,
That's why you
they
have
stole
tanks
all our
here.
capital,
Pretty
right?
actively
Like
at
they
war
fucking,
with the
we invested a bunch of money in them, and they just fucking took it, right?
Yeah,
Well,
so
but
did-
isn't that
so
the
did-
history of like that was why we deposed the Shah in fucking Iran, right? Is because they were
Yeah.
trying to expropriate the British oil companies, and the UK begged us to go and bail them out or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
that sucks. Is that a reason to invade a country? I mean, I don't
Hell
know.
yeah, you got to get your shit
Well,
back. They're gonna
if you
steal
can
all your shit.
escalate from stealing a blade of
Jesus.
grass to
What do you mean,
shooting a person-
Jesus?
Oh Jesus, you guys are hardcore,
you guys
man.
Don't, you guys don't care at all. So I don't want to hear a single thing about like sovereignty or sovereign country this and that. Like that matters nothing at all for you guys.
Whoa,
I think
whoa, whoa!
we-
No,
this
it
isn't
doesn't
the
matter
context
nothing
of
at
the-
all. If they
this isn't-
if you invest a bunch of money and they steal it, like they're not entitled to do that. I think their
You're
sovereignty
entitled
is
to invade.
Well, so
For
it's the same
stealing-
thing
yeah,
as the
for
Destiny stealing
stealing
a blade
money.
of grass and you kill the guy. It's the
It's not-
exact same thing on a nation
Well,
state.
I think
level.
the issue is the principle of like how does foreign investment in any part of the world work if countries have set rules that they can just steal your investment when you go there? I think right. That's a complicated one. I don't know if war is the right answer, but
Okay. No one's saying that it's good and that they should be violating rules. It's
well, we
war.
kept asking them and they
War-
wouldn't give it back. So, what
so
do we do?
wait, hold
Oh,
on,
it's
Supreme. Are you
Supreme.
being serious right now?
He's
I'm just
memeing.
curious.
No,
Is
he's
he?
memeing. No, he has-
Hell yeah, no. I don't know enough
can't
about
tell.
Cuba
I
to be
really
super
can't tell.
confident
Fuck you.
about
Okay,
this, but
stop.
it's fun banter.
Fuck
I
this
can't
guy.
tell. I can't tell.
He's
No,
memeing. He's a fucking memer.
You can't just Rachel. Do you agree that you should be able to invade for someone just stealing money?
I think it falls in the same way. It depends on how much money that they steal. But yeah, if they steal, I don't know, $1 trillion or something, then yes, absolutely. Or if you're stealing food from a starving state, then yes, absolutely, you can invade over that.
No, I don't even disagree with this. I don't know. I don't know the history of Cuba
So-
like super particular, but yeah, I don't disagree with this at all.
So how many
What else
how
are you
many
gonna do?
civilians do they have to kill before it's okay to invade them, Pisco?
How many civilians do they have to kill before it's okay to invade? Is that the question?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that you, in terms of stealing food, in
If
a
you
way
Google the
that
Saudi group, he said it
reliably
exists.
kills individuals in like a neighboring country, I can agree that at some level of
I think the point he's making is that
So-
you
so-
wouldn't,
so-
you
Can I
wouldn't say
finish my
we.
thought? Can I finish my thought?
Yeah, go.
I
Let me
agree
go.
that at
You're trying to
some
answer a
level-
question that he's not asking though.
No. Let him go, and then I got.
I don't know the. You would have to know, wouldn't you? Like the percentage
Okay.
of people who are dying as a result.
Okay, so then
of
it's
the-
totally fine for us to continue our embargo of Cuba from the 1960s and just totally fuck their entire nation because we're not directly killing any Cubans.
I'm not saying that it's necessarily equivalent to. If you're
No,
forcibly
it's the same
starving,
thing.
if you're,
Hang on,
if
it's
you're
explicitly-
intentionally starving a country, I agree with you that it would be essentially a similar act to invading and killing them, right? That I'm agreeing with you in principle that starving could be a basis for invasion. But
Okay,
in the
so
case
just
of
leaving it in
Cuba,
the Stone
right,
Age.
is in the case of Cuba. Well, what do you think? Do you think in that case are all sanctions acts of war?
Just as
yes,
a clear
they are.
thing, so Osama bin Laden gave, as part of his fatwa, as part of the sanctions that the United States did against Iraq, was one of his rationales for it. And I believe Iran harbors a ton of hatred against the United States because people
So
will
sanction
blame.
is an act
So-
of war.
So yeah, sanctions are acts of war. Yes, they're just escalatory acts. It's the same way that when we shot down Russian MiGs in Korea and Russian MiG shot down our pilots in Vietnam, that it didn't escalate beyond that. It doesn't necessarily have to escalate into something more than that. But yes, I would say that cyber attacks and economic sanctions are acts of war and are acts of aggression and are degrading quality of life for citizens of other nations.
Okay, but war has to help that situation. War needs to be effective for it to be justified. Just because someone does something bad, let's say someone is punching you, right? Punching you. And everyone agrees, okay, you can self-defend yourself in some ways, but not in all ways. If someone's punching
What do you
you,
mean?
I don't.
This is
I'm about to
in
explain
Florida.
what I mean, Rage Probe. I'm trying to explain myself. If someone's
In most places,
Okay,
if
you
someone
can
punches
talk.
you can shoot them and kill them. That's all I don't.
No,
I
hold
guess
on, that's
all.
not true.
Bro,
Hold on.
I'm about to show you some incredibly You think I'm just gonna like say that one-on-one violence isn't justified when someone's punching you? Wait for the hypothetical to finish, and you can attack it. All right. Someone's punching you, right? You're in a nursery. You agree? You can punch him back, right? Do you think that you should be able to throw a pin in a grenade and try to make the grenade blow up in such a way that it doesn't hit you, but
No,
all those babies.
that's why.
Okay, that's stupid, right? So just because someone is doing a wrong to you or other people, the war needs to be a way to help matters. If it's just hurting people or it's not making anyone better off, it's not justified.
Okay,
right?
so then.
So if you're gonna,
But you have to look at the entire context of everything that's happening, which is the same reason why I said I wouldn't go into Afghanistan but I would stay in. And you're saying that now in this scenario, it's the same. It's the same comparison.
That's fine, but I just don't understand why you're equivocating. Like, if you think
where am I equivocating? I guess.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter that like the pre-crime stuff doesn't matter to you? It shouldn't matter. It only matters insofar as you think people's perceptions are of the country invading. But if you know that this country is going to devolve into a starved, terrorist harboring, aggressive state, why wait? And that's what I'm curious about. Like, why have this principle? Like, no, they have to do a pre-crime before, so they have to do a crime before you invade. That just seems silly. Why would you wait?
So because one, we don't know who the bad actors will be eventually, and I still think you can't just see somebody coming up to you and shoot them. They have to be doing something aggressive. I don't know where you want to draw your morals from, but you have to have a crime before you do something. And I think the lines for what that crime has to be before you invade is going to be proportional to the damage, to the collateral damage. So it's going to be representative to that collateral damage. So if we go to that nursery example, right? So let's say that we have a nursery full of kids, and there is one bad guy with a gun holding them hostage. Well, very clearly, it wouldn't be right to just level that entire block with B-52s. We would agree that that's totally unacceptable collateral damage. But let's say that Russia was shelling the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant out of that same nursery and was going to destroy the entire or half the continent of Europe with that radioactive release. Yeah. So because of the impact that you're going to have, well, yes, you should not be shelling children. At some point, there is some moral calculus where it becomes okay to have the collateral damage of hitting that unit there.
Two things I know, Rage Pope. One is you define the crime, whatever that is, that would justify the invasion. So in the context of Chile, the crime is voting in for a guy you don't like. Yeah. That's the crime.
It's aligning with somebody who's actively trying to kill you all around the world and trying to end civilization as you know it.
In the context of Afghanistan, why couldn't the crime be aligning yourself with Islamism in an inexorable path towards terrorism and despotism? I mean, that could be the crime. And so if the crime could be voting in for someone who supports the tyrannical hegemon of the Soviet Union, why couldn't the crime for Afghanistan be, aligning yourself with militant Islamism?
Because militant Islamism isn't going to destroy or it's not a threat, but it's not a world-ending threat. It's not like tomorrow, if we wake up, Iran and the Ayatollah may be ruling the world over the ashes of civilization. I think there's fundamentally a difference in the consequences.
Okay, so a peaceful, orderly, democratic transition according to all rules, aligning yourself with the Soviet Union, that's a crime. But a war by an Islamic fascist organization,
but it's not just aligning yourself with the country.
Harboring
terrorists.
terrorists.
Shouldn't talk about politics.
Okay, and
it sounds like what Rage Pope is factoring in here is the pragmatic chances of success of said enemy organization.
But he doesn't have to do any work on the pragmatic justification for the war. So in the case of someone, so let's take the Cuba example. So suppose no nuclear threat whatsoever. You still support invading Cuba, right? Because they're aligned with the Soviet Union.
He's saying yes because the Soviet Union represents an existential threat to U.S. hegemony, basically.
You're not calculating the risk of the Soviets responding?
Do you think the Soviets are more likely to shoot nukes at us when we're directly shooting down their fighter pilots, or do you think that they're more likely to engage when we're invading a third party neighbor in Cuba? That's clearly in our zone of influence. If they were going to shoot,
okay, so that's clearly in the zone of influence of America.
Our zone of influence, yes.
Because of proximity.
Yes.
Okay.
So explicitly, we were shooting at each other in Korea and Vietnam, and we never nuked each other. So why would fighting all the way around the world on an ocean that they don't even border?
I thought we were shooting at Chinese people. I didn't know
we were shooting at Russians too. There's an entire Russian ballad about their MiG pilots going to Vietnam and shooting down our planes.
So in that case, do you support? All right. So then the question for Cuba, that's decided. I mean, you would agree. You agree with the pay of pigs. You agree with
Destiny
that they
hating
should
the
have been
British is like a
invaded
spoiled rich kid hating
long
his
before
father.
it did. Long before.
Hold
the
on, wait a
communist-
second. I just want to, just to be clear here, in Vietnam versus in the Vietnam War, how many times were there were actually U.S. and Soviet?
Yes, yeah. So they set down trainers for the Vietnamese army, but they flew air combat missions and shut down a lot of our planes.
Do you
yes.
agree with the Vietnam War?
Do I agree with the Vietnam War? Well, it was requested by our ally France for us to participate.
I didn't ask if it was requested. I asked if you agreed with it.
So I'm setting the stage. So yes, it was requested for us to participate by one of our allies who was very vital for us in maintaining, those type of alliances. I think the execution was pretty poor, but I would say overall, yes. I think there was massive fuck ups in there, but overall, yes, yeah.
Is there a single American intervention you don't agree with?
Well, hang on. I think the question we'd want to ask is what gave France the moral authority to participate in the like what?
Well,
how
what
was
do you mean?
France-
I mean, it was their own nation. They owned whatever as a colony.
Okay, I just.
I mean,
I feel like
that's-
if I'm Pisco, I didn't get a satisfying answer to that.
Well, I mean, it would be justified. I don't understand why it's like a problem. It's justified because Vietnam was potentially at threat of being aligned with Soviet Union, and so of course it's justified. That should be the answer, right, Rach?
Yeah.
Is there a
that's
single
great.
American intervention, I'll ask again, that you don't agree with?
I would have to go through the list. I mean, I think a lot of them had very bad outcomes, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
But you think that we had a moral writ for engaging in all the ones that we engaged in at the time. We had everything we needed in order to begin an intervention.
Yes.
Damn,
Yeah.
I don't know. Pinochet is a hard sell. I would have to read up on that a lot, but that's a
Bro.
hard sell, dude.
You're saying everything America did in its history in terms of foreign intervention has happened to be the correct decision.
I don't know all the interventions, but all the ones
So-
since the Cold War, then yes. And those interventions that you're trying to equivocate between the Cold War and between what's happened in the 90s and 2000s are just entirely false equivalencies.
Well, the question I would have is like, did we know that Allende would align with the Soviet Union?
But it is,
There was a risk
I would
of it.
guess that we had a pretty high risk of that happening, and I think that's way beyond the risk threshold. And the cost to do it
Yeah.
was very low. A covert CIA intervention is very low cost as opposed to an explicit intervention there.
Well, it's careful. It's low cost to the United States.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
but
curious about
when
how
you're
we
fighting
assess
a
the
war
risk.
against somebody, you don't have to consider the moral calculus on the other side.
Sure, I
because
can kind of
someone
understand
else-
that, but I'm just saying that, like, on a macro perspective, that seems a little bit at odds with the opening of this conversation. Was like, well, aren't we morally
Well,
incentivized to
because
care
we
about the
switched-
citizens of other nations, right?
Well, yes, yeah, but so the difference there is we are in direct and open conflict in a world like that, whereas that's not happening in the world right now. I guess maybe it is to a certain extent in Ukraine, but that's not the war in Afghanistan. That's not the war in Iraq. It's not Libya, Somalia, Bosnia, Kosovo. That's entirely separate.
Why don't you say that it was wrong for America not to invade in Libya?
I would.
Okay. So America should have invaded Libya. Shouldn't America have invaded like
Iran and Pakistan.
Tunisia and yeah, I guess why
Potentially,
not?
yes.
Well, it shouldn't be us alone, ideally.
Yeah. Yeah, ideally it'd be the rest of the Western world with us to spread liberalism.
Base liberalism.
I agree with this, honestly. Like, I'm not even memeing. Like, that's the
Yeah.
reason I...
Do you agree that every single American intervention in history has been justified?
Me? No. I don't. I mean, I don't know enough
which
to
have
be able
been-
to say
I
it
don't.
confidently.
Or at least the
So
ones that,
again, you
are
keep
you
pointing
aware
to
of?
Cold War interventions that
Yeah, I think
that are justified in the greater context of the Cold War and saying, oh, well, Pinochet was a fucking terrible person who did all sorts of brutal crimes. But you have to put that in perspective versus the expansion of the Cold War, the potential loss of other nations that could be aligned to your side if you're not going to protect them, or the threat to other ones that if you align, then this will happen to you. There's greater context to it than we're absolutely destroying this nation.
I think this is the scary part on both sides, is that in Rage Pope's world, this is the future that Rage Pope is worried about. We allow the Soviet Union to essentially steamroll through whether implicit or explicit support for communist countries through all of through all of South America. And then inevitably, we find ourselves with fucking Mexico joining the Soviet Union, and now we have nukes on our border, and something escalates to some fucking nuclear conflict. And as we're sitting in our final moments, we're just thinking, damn, we should have never let the Soviet Union penetrate South America in that way. We fucked up. We should have just, the losses that we would have stopped there would have prevented this entire escalatory thing to where the Soviet Union and the United States are two strong poles in a multipolar war that ends in nuclear warfare. That's, I think, the final thing that Rage Pope is worried about. On Pisco's side, his final side, though, is You've got some country, they're pretty chill. They go to have democratic elections and they free and fair and they want to do their thing. And, you know, maybe they're going to elect a guy that's a social. Oh, here's America to destroy all of your shit because you might be participating in a greater macro war that will end in all of civilization ending. And with that ideology, you could theoretically infinitely justify American aggression in every single country across the world, so long as America is the quote unquote good guy in your hegemonic view of the world. And now it's like, okay, well, cool. In that case, when somebody asks you, is there any American invasion that isn't justified? Well, if America is the hegemonic good guy, and if I look at like China or Russia, they're bad. Well, no, basically every single invasion by America is good because we're preventing some non-0% chance that other countries will eventually, you know, domino effect into nuking the United States. I think that's the issue on both sides.
And then if we just continue that, if we continue our interventions and our willingness to protect people who want to be democracies around the world, it sends stronger signals to authoritarian governments like China and Russia.
Hold on.
What do you mean? Do you think that if we...
Do I think that the people wanted Pinochet as like... Well, not everybody that we supported was for democratic values around the world. It was for U.S. interests, right?
So the question that I'm going to ask is, do you think that Obama just resetting relations with Russia after Georgia emboldened them for the rest of their campaign in the I guess, Central Asian arena?
Possibly. Why does it matter?
Why does it matter? Because explicitly by not supporting Georgia in that situation, we condemned Ukraine to this war. We condemned greater intervention and more deaths of these people by not attacking Iran, by not attacking Pakistan, and by not taking a stand for their human rights, that we've emboldened them and we've enabled them to attack in other places, potentially because maybe we won't defend Taiwan now. Well, maybe we're condemning them to be subjugated and under the regime of China. The brutal authoritarian regime.
And if not Taiwan, then suddenly the Philippines, fucking,
the
Vietnam,
Philippines, Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, that entire
Japan,
arena.
possibly,
we're just saying,
South Korea, yep.
Do we think it's okay just because we don't want to stand up for the smallest one that we should just allow them to infinitely take territories from people because they are,
No, but you're failing to address Destiny's point is that your argument proves too much. I mean, if we're fearful of emboldening, why stop at all in any capacity for any American foreign policy interest whatsoever? We should never stop it.
Yes, there's always cost associated with these things. These interventions aren't free.
Wait, no, hold on. But you've kind of eliminated the cost argument, Rage Pope, because the ultimate cost of non-intervention is nuclear war. So you can almost infinitely justify human life costs at the areas that we're in.
Because right now, with China, fighting with Russia, we're not at the threat of nuclear war if we were to intervene. Here's a question using this logic, right?
Threatened nuclear war.
Using this logic, how can we
do anything? He didn't move any of his nukes out. It was just posturing. It was words. They still have a nuclear non-for.
Why can't I say it was Soviet Union? It's just posturing. Soviet Union posturing.
They're not posturing.
Couldn't I? If they're giving threats, I mean, you and I understand.
When North Korea says they're going to destroy all of South Korea and Japan, that they're not posturing.
I agree that there's probably some difference in terms of the nature of the threat during the Cold War and now with respect to North Korea and with the modern Russian Federation. But it just seems like, why even take that risk? Why even isn't nuclear war a thing to be worried about?
Yes, and that's why we should be enforcing the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And you know what's happening? Belarus is rearming their bombers. Iran's developing a nuclear weapon. Other people throughout the Middle East are gaining nuclear weapons because we explicitly want to.
Why embolden them? We should just.
I know. That's why I'm asking. Why did we pull out of Afghanistan? It's emboldening all of our enemies in the region.
Let's go back in. There's no nuclear threat from. There's no proximate nuclear threat from Afghanistan. Let's go back in. Let's not embolden them. Why do you just say it?
Jesus.
And I think the better point is that Rage Pope using your worldview and your justification for Pinochet, for example, is like a perfect justification for Russia to invade Afghanistan because of Operation Cyclone, right? Because they would have the same concerns. So now suddenly the Russian invasion of Afghanistan is perfectly justified.
Well, this is almost like a hyper ultra realist perspective because now almost every world power has justification to invade everybody ever for ever worrying about their sphere of influence, right?
I think explicitly the reason why we have the justification and they don't is the form of government and the rights and privileges we afford to their people versus the opposing system that we're in context.
Well, but now you're in ultra subjective territory, right? Because
I mean, we have to be at some point, right? Because at the end of the day, the choice is either you can have an authoritarian world power or you can have a democratic world power run by the West. And so when you're in that choice, well, it's very clearly that the West is democratic.
You say that
you're not in that same polarization there.
Hang on.
You're not in the same polarization.
You said that pulling out of Afghanistan emboldened our enemies, correct?
Yes. But there's a difference between emboldening. there's a difference between emboldening and there's a current nuclear threat that's hanging over everything. Maybe it comes 10, 20, 50 years down the line, and maybe we take a look at that point, versus we're explicitly at the point of extinction in 20 minutes.
We're at the point where the cost is least. Once we're at the point where we can, if we invade now,
we don't know. There's no certainty. There's no certainty.
Who cares? Who cares? There's no certainty that Cuba would accept nuclear missiles. There's no certainty to that.
There was, Russia.
There's
Yes, the
certainty
Soviet
to
Union
that?
was offering them a lot of support. Yes.
There's certainty that they were going to accept. I mean,
there was a very high probability that they would accept.
That's the only difference. That's the only difference between what's going on in Cuba, in Chile, and what's going on in Afghanistan. Is that you're certain that Chile was going to get nuclear weapons, and you're not certain that.
I don't think there's a question.
Well, also, hold on, wait a second. Was it true that it was certain that Cuba would accept nuclear weapons?
Or Chile. Sure.
No, because earlier you guys said you was like, oh yeah, obviously Cuba was going to accept nuclear weapons. I don't know if that was a certainty at the time.
I meant Chile. I meant to say Chile.
Oh, sure. Okay, gotcha. Well, because everyone else agreed that it was okay.
Well, no, I think it was a certainty. I think we knew that Castro was in direct contact.
I meant Chile.
He's talking about Chile.
Sure.
He's talking about Chile under Allende.
So is it certain that Chile is going to accept Soviet nukes?
It's not.
That
was my question about Allende. It's did we know?
Yeah. So, but if not Chile,
how sure
then,
could we be?
Yeah, but then the question is, how much influence can Soviets start running in South America? And now we're going to have to start diverting all sorts of resources to other South American countries.
Same thing with Afghanistan, right? Where it's uncertain if Chile is going to accept. I mean, Chile is different.
The difference between Afghanistan is there's no global threat coming from Afghanistan. There's going to be random attacks and whatever, but it's not going to be an Afghan army.
You're the one who's saying that the Afghanistan war.
Let me provide a better argument for you, Pisco. We're overlooking how difficult it would be to hold Afghanistan because it's cradled in with all of our adversaries right then and there. We would have to worry about being able to hold that from Iran, China, and Russia at once.
I don't know if. I mean, aside from Pakistan and maybe Iran, I don't know how much support in Afghanistan they're getting. I mean, look at Israel. Listen, they won the Six-Day War. They're getting a lot of support from Pakistan, but I don't know.
From China too.
What do you compared to Pakistan?
Not as much, but China is trying to expand their influence so they can basically drive a road to Tehran through there.
Hold on. The United States holding Afghanistan is I believe is somewhat trivial, right? Our losses were we weren't losing very many people in the last 10 years.
If it's trivial now, if it's trivial now, okay, but you can't play this game, Rage Pope. You say leaving embolden our enemies, and so therefore it's not trivial in your mind, right?
It wouldn't be trivial. The point is that
you don't think Afghanistan is trivial,
but the decision's already made. No,
I'm not asking the decision made. You don't think Afghanistan?
So the cost for us in 2021, was it trivial if we wanted to continue holding Afghanistan?
Is Afghanistan, is the control of Afghanistan trivial in your mind?
Compared to everything else, yes. Yeah, it was about, again, 500 American lives per year and $50 billion was our cost to remain.
Wait. Was it 500 a year? That's not true.
It was lower than that. It was 1 to 200. I think in the last.
Wait, in Afghanistan, I thought it was a dozen or something. No. Was it?
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, if you want to include the suicides and everything else and the contractors, I'm just ballparking it at 500, but it's lower than that. Yes.
Okay, I don't know what those numbers were, but I thought it was in the scale of over 10 years. I thought it was fucking less than 100 soldiers died.
No,
but
no, it was a couple hundred per year.
Doesn't it matter who controlled Afghanistan? Isn't that of huge significance?
No, it doesn't.
If it doesn't matter, why would you invade in the first place? If you're saying it doesn't matter who invades,
so in terms of great power conflict, it doesn't really matter who controls Afghanistan. In terms of what's going to happen and where terrorists are going to be harbored, then yes, it matters who controls Afghanistan. And so it's really hard when you're framing the current world as great power conflicts the same way that it was in the 1970s, when that's fundamentally not true.
It's all one thing, right? We're all living in this one world, and we're all have the incentive.
But Russia doesn't have jets flying to our borders every day with a threat of nuclear war. China isn't doing the same thing.
Then you agree that Afghanistan...
There's not a risk of escalation to nuclear destruction the same way.
Okay, then you shouldn't have said that Afghanistan emboldened Russia. You shouldn't have said Afghanistan, that our withdrawal
emboldens. It did embolden Russia.
Okay, then it does matter. Then it matters to great power conflict.
Millions of Ukrainians who are now in conflict.
Okay, then it matters. you can't say it doesn't matter to great
No,
power.
no. Hold on. That wasn't Afghanistan. That was. I thought we were using Georgia as the example that we didn't support Georgia.
Afghanistan. I mean, when we pulled out of Afghanistan and we just abandoned all of our allies in the region after Trump was abandoning Kurdistan, we've had 3 isolationist presidents who have said America's just going to pull back from the world. Under Obama, we're going to pull back even more under Trump. We're explicitly going to abandon our allies. We left 800 Americans in Afghanistan under Biden when he pulled out, plus the tens of thousands of translators and other people who are being hunted as we speak by the Taliban. We basically said to the world at that point that we are no longer interested in conflict overseas, and that in the calculus,
it affects great power politics. So why'd you say it doesn't affect great power politics? It affects
it's not great power politics.
No, it is not itself.
Do you think Russia is a great power?
You don't think? Is there? Who are the great powers in America? Who do you think the great powers are in the United States, in the world right now?
Only America.
No, come on. Right. I think at the very least we have to contend with.
Who can project force around the world?
It's not just about force. Hold on. It's not
about China.
Wait. It's not just about force
China
projection.
doesn't have a blue water navy. They have a refitted.
It's not just about force projection. Okay. Like
That's
Syria.
explicitly what it is when you're talking about great power conflicts.
Could be.
It's
It
your
could
ability
be
to wage war.
Wait, hold on. Our ability to support Ukraine hasn't been force projection. It's been like economic powers, right? It's been the different soft influences that we can have.
Logistics of our military to be able to deliver all that aid that we've accumulated over the time.
I don't believe that requires. I don't think we saw even a fraction of the full might of the U.S. military when it came to delivering support to Ukraine, right? I think these were.
And I think that's pathetic.
Well, I'm just saying that we have to be careful. I don't think that it's force projection is something that's determining, like, what makes you a world power.
What do you think force projection is? Is it just the ability to put something there, or is it the ability to sustain tens or hundreds of thousands of troops, be it yours or others, all around the world, coming through your military pipeline?
Sure. We're the only great power right now.
Yes, I think.
Well, hang on. I think you might be. Are we interpreting this like hyper autistically, Rachel? Come on. Like a lot of these other countries have nuclear weapons, right? Like that's still nuclear war. Is
Pakistan a great power because they have a nuclear arsenal? Is Israel?
Well, of course, it has to be measured with their capability to be able to deliver it to the United States, where I think that exists with.
Or I just think this distinction of like what is a great power. I don't know if that's a very worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree with Destiny.
Yeah,
that's why you're trying to segment and be like, okay, no, we can't talk about Afghanistan in the same conversation.
Like the size of Russia's economy and their nuclear arms and the might of their military demands more respect than fucking Serbia or some other country. Like, no offense, sorry, I don't mean it. Or like Egypt or Libya or whatever, right? Like it demands more attention. Like I think that roughly speaking, we can still say that like Russia, China, and then the U.S./NATO, and then with some newcomers to maybe Turkey, Israel, India, Pakistan, like our new places.
So I think you have to be able to project strength beyond your borders. That Russia doesn't have the ability to do. China is
but they had the ability to support Syria through their entire civil war. They did that, didn't they?
They supported a small nation, a relatively small nation. No.
Why don't we just go to blows with Russia then, Rage Pub?
I don't know.
Wow, you can't even come up with a reason. Can't even.
Well, I mean, people are scared of nuclear annihilation. If we go to war with Russia, that they will guarantee nuke us, and then we have mutually assured destruction.
Do you agree with war with Russia?
I don't think it would escalate to that.
No, I'm asking you. Shouldn't we be in Ukraine, Americans right now fighting against Russians?
I would have said yes, yeah. That we should have, but we should have done it even before.
That's any thoughts?
In December,
we should go to war with Russia?
Yeah, attack Russian troops in Ukraine.
Absolutely not.
I'm really curious, Rage Pub, why you're like sweeping under the rug the threat of nuclear war. Why you think it's a non-issue?
Because we've been in direct conflict in proxy nations around the world, and it's never escalated to that point before.
Hold on, wait, that is not true. Since the 90s, I don't think U.S. and Russian soldiers have.
So you think Russia has a greater risk appetite than during the Cold War? No,
I think the risk appetite on both sides. I think the risk appetite on both sides is very small. I think that's why we avoid generally getting into direct conflict with each other.
I don't think that any direct conflict between America and Russia in Ukraine would lead to an escalation.
Okay, so then America should have invaded in Syria. America should have invaded anywhere America should have invaded Georgia to attack Russians.
I think it's fair to make this argument.
Can I get an answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, to some point, yes, yeah.
I think there's a scary thing, and I actually thought about this a bit during the Ukrainian war. I think there's a scary thing where we have this concept called MAD, but it's actually just a bunch of like college nerds like writing papers at each other. I don't think we would actually know what would happen. Like, let's say that Putin says, fuck this. Let's say he's successful madly in Ukraine, and he decides that he wants to go to the Baltics, and he starts marching troops into Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania. Do we actually engage in limited nuclear warfare there? I don't know if we do or not. It seems like we'd have to defend NATO, but if we do, like that begins like a whole chain of dominoes that where the fuck is that? I don't know what would actually happen.
Yeah, and what is the value of money? It's just paper after all, right?
No,
like,
hold on.
We seem to think it's important enough to be able to like deliver these nukes
that's
all over the
hyper
world.
autistic. I'm just saying that like I don't know if it is the case that like if this happens, then absolutely for sure the nukes begin to fall.
So
I think that's
saying you're saying that because they have nukes, they can just do whatever they want and we can't intervene because there's a threat that they could
No,
make us.
but you.
Wait, hold on. Wait, the answer to that is yes, isn't it? If you have nukes, you generally don't get fucked with. That's generally the rules of the world.
No,
So you're saying
let
every
them do anything they want.
should develop nuclear weapons so they can fuck with their neighbors and genocide their people because they have nuclear weapons and we shouldn't attack them.
That's how it works. Yes.
No,
Literally, that's the rule of the world right now. If you have nuclear weapons, you don't get fucked with. That's the whole reason why we had nuclear non-proliferation when we started drafting countries into NATO. We're trying to say, listen, we'll protect you with our nuclear weapons. Yes, that's how countries work. If you get nukes, people don't fuck with you.
Dictators all across the Middle East developing nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that's the problem with not being in like these huge land places. But
To protect Ukraine. Ukraine specifically gave up their nuclear weapons to go under China's nuclear umbrella and to go under our guarantee.
Yes, that is my. You're making my argument. What did Ukraine?
Russia to blow them? That we are explicitly saying that it's okay if you have nuclear weapons to take over your neighbors.
I'm not telling you what it should be. I'm telling you what it is, and that violation of that '94 memorandum is proving my point. Like Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons, and now they got invaded. That's what happens when you don't have nuclear weapons.
We should be there defending them, so we don't have to worry about every tin-pot dictator in the world having a nuclear weapon and going to blows. Imagine what would have happened if they just started nuking each other instead of using mustard gas.
I'm really curious what our positions are on like mutually assured destruction at this point and the threat of nuclear war. It seems like 5 minutes ago you guys were arguing that it's a no big deal. Destiny, you were saying that it's just college kids writing papers about.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that we don't know. That's the scary part. Is we don't know what would happen. But that's why I think countries have historically. I think that's why I think countries historically, my understanding is there is like a literal fucking red phone that goes from Washington to the Kremlin where they can make phone calls and they ask, yo, you have anybody in this fucking area? Because if so, we're going to stay the fuck out. And if not, we're about to nuke shit. There was that, what was it? Was it in Syria? Where there's that huge conflict? Yeah, there was in Syria where I'm pretty sure Washington called the Kremlin. They're like, hey, you have people there? And they were like, nope, we don't have shit there. And it was like fucking 2 Navy SEALs killed like 7,000 Russian. I'm exaggerating, but like that only happened because Russia denied having formal presence there. But I'm pretty sure that since 91, our goal is explicitly to avoid as much as we ever fucking can having 2 nuclear powers crossing through each other. It's why everybody gets so fucking scared when India and Pakistan start fighting with each other because we don't know what the fuck is going to happen there. Everybody gets really worried.
So what you're basically saying any dictator that develops a nuclear weapon and can deploy it has the capability to be autonomous in whatever region that they want.
That's why North Korea is so desperate to go after.
I'm saying that we explicitly must intervene anywhere where there's even a possibility of that happening.
Okay, so but the other side of the ridiculous train that we're doing, like one side, I think Destiny saying that anyone with nuclear arms can do whatever they want is ridiculous.
That seems to be the case. Look at the fucking Uyghurs in China.
But it's not whatever you want, and we'll do some things to. We probably won't invade you, but we'll do some things to you.
Well, they have to assess the risk of whether or not the host country is going to receive support from their allies, and if they'll even be able to take that territory and the cost of their nation. We're seeing that with Russia right now.
We can increase costs. We can do other measures to try to curtail the purely whimsical, autonomous, feeling of any country with a nuclear weapon. And of course, as Rage Pope knows, it's not enough to get
autonomous. There's still the cost of waging war and invasions and stuff, and a potential
Exactly. So I think there's reasons why you can respond to Rage Pope and say, no, it wouldn't work that way. No, just having a nuclear weapon isn't enough for you to be able to do anything, let alone to have us do nothing in response to you doing whatever you want. That's one side of the ridiculous train.
When I look at places,
just real quick, Destiny, if you don't mind.
Okay.
If you don't mind. The other side that Rage Pope has to contend with is, under his framework, you should attack Russians in Georgia. You should attack Russians and Syrians. You should attack Russians in Ukraine. You might as well declare war on Russia. I don't see what the difference is at that point.
And the difference is they're beyond their borders. Just like Destiny said, if you have autonomy within your borders, then you can have autonomy within your borders.
You think Russia's going to start nuclear war based on that?
I don't think so. If anything, there would be a limited strike. Okay. But
that would be a major bluff to call. Maybe you could call that bluff, but we don't know how that would shake out.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the alternative of not calling the bluff is eventually you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, so
the point of mutually assured destruction or nuts. No, because we're not declaring war on Russia. We're again helping the Ukrainians who explicitly want us to help them.
Well, I'm not asking you what we are doing. I'm asking you what you would want to do.
Listen,
we wouldn't declare war on Russia we would declare an intervention in Ukraine to support the rightful government, and we would clear out anybody in there. If it happens to be Russians, if it happens to be Syrians, if it happens to be trucked in terrorists, it doesn't matter. We clear it out.
I'm not
to help
limiting my
Ukraine.
focus on Ukraine. I'm saying broader than that.
Yes.
What is the problem with America generally fighting on every front against Russia, including attacking Russian troops all the time?
Because we don't have, in places like Libya where they want the Russian troops, it doesn't really. It's not our place to intervene, according to your worldview.
I'm not.
Well, he's asking according to yours.
According to my worldview, I don't have any problem with that. If they're propping up terrible dictatorships, if the cost to us to do that is low.
Wait, hold on. We can't say propping up terrible dictatorships because we'll prop up terrible dictatorships, right? That's not a.
What terrible dictatorship have we propped up since the 1990s?
I would argue that Maliki in Iraq had a lot of problems with the way that some of the Sunnis were saying that dude was fucking locking up people in secret death camps. He almost fucking single-handedly took Iraq into war with fucking Iran. Like there were a lot of issues in the American established government in post-Iraq with the leadership there. I mean, I'm sure you can find other.
Afghanistan had a lot of corruption.
I don't know if it was on the same level as Iraq did, but like.
But who was guiding Maliki? Or why was Maliki, I'm kind of fucking butcher's name. Why is Maliki so willing to go to war with Iran?
Because I'm pretty sure that when that dude grew up, his whole fucking family was terrorized.
No, because they were continuing influence operations inside of Iraq. They were killing tens of thousands of Iraqi civilian soldiers and American citizens there, and they were continuing to operate within their borders.
I don't know if the destruction and chaos was that extreme coming from Iran at that point, but
you cannot say that anything that distinguishes us with Russia is supporting dictatorships. You said it's justified to support dictatorships, and you can't on the one hand
under certain, not in the post 1990 world. No, in the post 1990 World War after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there's no reason.
Post 90s world, you think America hasn't supported any dictatorships or authoritarian countries where there's no?
I think the easier example would be Saudi Arabia.
Not nearly to the same degree as Pinochet.
Well, hang on.
Right, here's one for you. Do you think we should have intervened in what was it, Thailand under Pol Pot?
Thailand under Pol Pot. I don't know enough about that conflict.
He literally killed. It was a single dictatorship. Or sorry, Cambodia. Sorry, Cambodia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, racist.
I thought that was Cambodia. That's why I got really scared in that moment that I was totally wrong where Pol Pot was. That's the Khmer Rouge, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm generally I think that the intervention, for instance, I'm get to your question. I think the intervention in the Balkans was okay by America. I'm generally okay if it's
okay, but we're talking about great power conflicts.
Hang on, I'm about to answer your question. When it comes to like pure on ethnic genocide, where you're massacring hundreds of thousands of people, and there's no direct nuclear power involved in that, I think that I would tend to be okay with that. That's like for instance, I think Rwanda is an example where there was a massive genocide and nothing was done by the West in response to that.
Sure.
I think that's like.
Destiny, what about you?
For what?
Because you said people have their rights within their own borders to govern however they want. So what do you have?
Hold on, I didn't say that. I gave that with I said that with an important caveat that there are probably some international rules of the world where we say if you cross this line, you will draw the ire of the international community. Yes.
Well, but the international community, it sounds like, just has to be Russia. If Russia was to say we're going to defend Cambodia under Pol Pot, should we not have had the right to intervene there?
I think that even Russia and China will realize to some extent, as long as it's outside of their borders.
Don't fight the hype up.
What?
Suppose that Russia and China stationed troops to oversee the genocide of people in Cambodia.
Oh, I think it just happens. You're just fucked, my friend.
So you think we don't have any moral right, whatever, to intervene? Because
I mean, like if we look at what happened with the Chechnyan Civil War, we look at Grozny in '94. We couldn't do anything there. How many was that? Like over 100,000 people that got killed when that city got shelled. Yeah. Or if we look at what happened in Aleppo during the Syrian Civil War, that was in another country with Russia basically overseeing it, running the same plan they did with Grozny. I mean, it sucks, but that's kind of what happens. It's either that or with nuclear war, right? Like, the
question isn't whether or not we have the moral right. The question is, should we take the risk of nuclear war?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can do that.
That's your position, right? Destiny, is that it's not about the moral right, it's about the risk.
The pragmatic risks of, unfortunately. Yeah.
Rachel, if you're using Cambodia as an example, that's in the context of the Soviet Union. That's in the context of the Cold War. And so you would be against intervention there if there were Soviet troops there, because you think that the threat of nuclear force is high. You just, for whatever reason, think that the threat doesn't exist anymore.
I explicitly don't think that the same level of destruction is guaranteed. If anything, we would probably go to like a nut scenario, a nuclear theater level strike, more or less.
No
I don't
shot.
think you would actually be.
Once we've
What do you mean,
started
that's-
opening up like tactical, like small use nukes, aren't we just
That's-
like?
That's
I
the
just want
current
to be a little clear, Rage Pope. Under the current, this is the two scenarios. Soviet troops in the 1960s, 70s overseeing genocide in a country don't invade. Russian troops overseeing a genocide in the 21st century do invade.
Yes, I think the threat of nuclear war between our two countries is significantly lesser than it was in the 1970s.
If you're setting that role, here's a question. So let's say, so you're saying Russia oversees bad shit. Okay, we'll say genocidal actions, and we do invade today. Sure. Do you think that Russia says, well, okay, I guess Matt is off, and now Russia starts to look aggressively outside of their own borders into like NATO countries for possible invasion or intrusion or other tomfoolery?
They don't have that capability. They can't even sustain a war in Ukraine.
Hold on. They sustained activities in the Donbass for almost a decade now. They might not be able to do it like with a full scale.
5,000 people. Yeah.
Sure, they might not, but like but the Baltics probably aren't in a position to resist as much as Ukraine has, which is a massive military. And
no,
if they start,
absolutely can.
You think so? Really?
Yes. Yeah.
If I were to look up the total, here's my guess, and I could be totally wrong. I could be truly wrong. But my guess is going to be that if I look up the active military forces of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, that all three combined are probably half the size of Ukraine. Am I crazy about that, or?
So
did you say Balkans or Baltics?
The Baltics.
So Lithuania's GDP is 50 billion, Latvia's 33.5, Ukraine is 31 billion. Estonia's is 31 billion. Ukraine's GDP is about 155.
Yeah, those countries are a lot bigger than I thought they were.
Well, hold on. They're big, but what is their military capabilities? My understanding is that Ukraine, fuck GDP, Ukraine has a huge military. Your economy is not your military. I don't know why anyone here is saying that. No. Ukraine has a large standing military compared to their like economic
but
outlays.
Do you think
like
Poland? So Poland would absolutely intervene with the Baltics as well, and Poland has significantly greater military capabilities than Ukraine does. All the Baltics have a more professional army than Ukraine does. They've been integrated with NATO and in that training for a lot longer period of time. They've been able to amass large amounts of weapons and not had to continuously use them in the Donbass region. And Poland would absolutely be supporting them, even if the rest of NATO would not. I think they would get significantly less far into the Baltics than they would.
Hold on, when I say get into, I'm not talking about a full-scale invasion. I'm talking about like what is happening in like Donetsk and Luhansk, where it's just like separatist movements in the eastern part of the countries that are getting like more or less like Russia attacking. You don't think it would happen at all, like it did in Georgia, like it did in Moldova, like it did in Ukraine?
I think the pushback from Poland would be more than enough to crush whatever that is.
Okay.
But you're in favor of America invading Crimea?
To a certain extent, yes.
Wait, do you support? Wait, what was your question?
The invasion. Yes. I support the return of Crimea to Ukraine.
I do too, but
do you support putting American troops on ground to fight Russian troops at Russia's border?
Crimea?
I don't think we even need to. I think if we provided air support and more targeting information and more
I'm getting so
long-range
many
missiles,
mixed signals from you though now. Like it seems like before you would have just said
So yes, I would support putting troops on the ground, but I don't even think the cost calculus goes that high. I don't think you even need a single American troop on the ground in order to push Russia out of Crimea. I think that there's more than enough manpower on the Ukraine side. They just lack the long-range weaponry and the precision weaponry to hit Russian positions to allow their ground troops to advance. I think that's the fundamental problem in Ukraine right now.
America invading. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, if you look at what we did in Iraq during the first Gulf War, that would be the same thing that would basically happen in Crimea now. But instead of having Saudi Arabia troops on the ground to go liberate Kuwait City, it would just be the Ukrainian forces liberating their own.
And America should invade South Ossetia and Abkhazia.
And Transnistria. Yeah.
Jeez, that's a lot of military stuff going on.
I would love to see a timeline where we did like do a direct intervention, but I wouldn't like to see it tried, I guess.
Yeah.
It seems that on one hand, when we talk about like people like Pinochet, I can buy into there's a probability that shit can go really wrong, and maybe we need to take extreme measures just to prevent that small chance of something going really wrong. But it sounds like the world that you're talking about could theoretically be so much more volatile with us like going to war at the drop of the hat, like on so many things. Like there's
could
so
be,
many
but it's not
potentials for
likely.
like another civilian airliner to get shot down, more war crimes to happen, more just something that
I don't think a civilian airliner factors into just the entire razing of entire villages and the shelling of civilian convoys.
What would happen if your world is true, right? Let's say American troops invade and start fighting in Crimea and Ukraine. Why wouldn't Russia just start attacking like American airliners everywhere and attacking American bases and places and like bombing?
Because that would be escalatory actions well beyond
Would
whatever the
America
limited
should
interaction
America
is.
nuke in response to that? I mean, America started it, right? America's attacking.
What do you mean?
positions-
America's not starting it. Russia is absolutely
No,
starting
no,
it.
with respect to direct attacking of each other's forces, right? America starts attacking Russian forces, and
what he's saying, as long as it's military against military, that Russia should stay constrained to the same military.
Yes, and it should be constrained to whatever theater that it's operating in.
like, why would it? Why do you expect it to do that? Don't you think that Russia is going to start attacking at least military targets outside of Ukraine? Like put on your fucking.
I don't even think they can attack all the military targets they can in Ukraine. They don't have the ability to escalate into multiple theaters. They don't have the capability.
They don't have the
force.
capability for sustained warfare in multiple theaters, but
Correct.
small escalatory or small retaliatory attacks across different things, I think they probably could.
Yeah,
Do you
and
really
so
think
if
that
you
if
have
we did that, it wouldn't be broader? That it would just Russia be like, all right, we're just going to stay here. We're not going to
There
attack
may be
America anywhere else.
there may be small attacks in other regions, but it would be extremely limited in scale. It wouldn't be the same level of escalation that we would see in the Cold War when they had the capability and they had the allies to fight in multiple theaters at the same time. They don't have those same capabilities, so that risk of escalation is, again, significantly smaller. And even if there is nuclear escalation, most currently military theory is saying that there could be limited strikes in a theater and it won't escalate to mad.
Ooh, that's a spooky one. I'm just trying to imagine how scary. Like, I know how scary the world was when fucking people were even like walking outside with masks and shit from the coronavirus. I'm trying to imagine how scary the world is when we are watching TV and we're seeing mushroom clouds. That's, even if it's in a limited sense, that's a really scary world.
I don't even think it would escalate to that. I think the second that we
No, but I
stood up-
agree that that's true. But the more of this
Possibility.
volatility you introduce, the more theaters of war that are open, the more active combat operations that are going on, the higher the chance that maybe.
But if we were
happens.
willing to stand up earlier, there'd be less of these scenarios, and the war would
Deal with
generally
that.
be
Like,
safer.
it's over, like,
Yes.
yeah, okay. We should have stood up in 2014 better than we did. And with
So
respect to
2008. But at
Okay,
some
we
point,
should-
you have to stand up because, again, you can't just allow infinite annexation.
But
You
we're
can't
back
allow
to
it.
the nursery. We're back to the nursery. Yes, you stand up in some ways, but you don't stand up by, like, you wouldn't agree with a nuke in Russia to stand up to them. So let's be real, right? You wouldn't agree with thermonuclear
Sure,
bomb in Moscow. So
No, because there's no need. There's absolutely no
Okay.
need.
So
If
then-
that was the only way, then sure. But that's not.
I
the
agree
scenario
we
that
should
we're-
stand up to Russia. I agree we should make efforts to stand up to Russia. I agree we should defend every inch of NATO territory. I
And
agree with
we've pulled levers that have never really been pulled before in terms of these sanctions. We're still constricted to linear time, right? Like, I would love to see a timeline where we went to to blows with the Russian military at Russia's border, but at the time we were like, well, we have all these levers to pull. All our
Yeah, but-
allies are
but
going
we
to follow
pulled them-
suit.
But we could
And there's a
barely even
cost
get our
to
allies
Russia,
to
right?
fall in.
Like, it's not
and
infinite
there's-
annexation because there's a cost to Russia. Who knows how much longer they can sustain this, and could they sustain another campaign like this, right? Like, it
Sure.
may be demonstrated now that this is not worth the effort for Russia. This is not worth the the lives and the money for Russia.
Bro, I just think that this is. I can agree with you that maybe American foreign policy should be a little bit more defensive, or sorry, should be a little bit more proactive. I think is what you would think. But the wholesale firing of weapons and ammunition and having essentially small scale wars with another nuclear power, that's a big yikes. And I don't know if
Well, yeah,
I'm.
but I mean, we could have even done it before. If in December and January we started delivering and training them on HIMARS and the other high caliber, what's it called, artillery. Like, we could have delivered hundreds of battle tanks to them ahead of time to send the message that we are going to stand up, instead of saying like, oh, Russia, don't worry, things are going to be bad if you invade, just like it was in 2014 when we forgave all that.
The
Oh,
sad
and
part
like
of-
2008 when we forgave all that. Don't worry, there's going to be big sanctions this time. Come
But
on,
the sad
guys.
part about this is your purported justification for doing this is you don't want to let these people fall into authoritarian dictatorship, right? That's the justification
Yes.
ultimately.
Yes.
But that's exactly what you supported in Chile.
Because it was Chile or the rest of the world in your calculus.
Okay,
Well,
but
in your
in the
calculus.
Chile example, you were really, really, really worried about the end of the world.
Yes.
But now we're not.
But now you're not worried about the end
When
of the
there's
world.
more nuclear proliferation and warheads in every country, like everything is like more.
There's no. I don't.
You're
I
so
don't.
scared of nuclear
The
war.
warhead count is lower.
You're so scared of nuclear war in the Soviet context. You're willing to overthrow democracies, but you're not so. You're so unscared of war, nuclear war in the 21st century that you're willing to have fucking war with Russia in a limited scale.
Yes, but I
how
think we could have done
different
it.
the situation makes like this is nonsense in my opinion. I mean, like, we really, how can you change on a drop of a dime like that?
What do you mean? The entire Soviet Union collapsed. Their entire military is so corrupt that they're running on like flat tires and selling off their fuel because they don't even trust their own military to let them know that there's going to be an invasion in 2 weeks. What do you mean? There's a huge difference between the Russian army and the Soviet army of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. In terms of professionalism, in terms of force protection.
Okay, I understand that they're different, right? But we're talking about how your perception of the nuclear threat changes.
Well,
Because there's no threat to Russia that we are going to go and roll tanks through Moscow. If we invade in Syria or Libya or Ukraine, there's no threat to
that. There was a threat of
yes.
Russian tanks rolling in California.
I mean, that's up to the Russian populace, right? Like that's been basically Putin's whole propaganda line in Lavrov, right? Is that like simply Ukraine joining NATO would have been a threat to the Russian people. And I don't know how many of them actually bought it or what those numbers are. It's so hard to get those figures, but like the U.S. going to war with Russia at Russia's border, I think we can pretty reasonably predict that there would be some Russians that would be like, holy shit.
Why did we stop the Polish from sending tanks, I guess?
Why did we or why didn't we?
Well, yeah, why did we? And why did we not just send more weapons earlier? It's because we're too afraid.
Maybe we're too afraid, but should we be so cavalier as to fucking engage in open conflict with them?
I think we have historically, and it hasn't led to nuclear warfare. So I would say yes, we're fine.
Wait, we have historically engaged in conflict with who?
With Russia and China directly.
What?
At their borders?
In way different times.
In Korea and Vietnam.
Wait, you're trying to draw a line and say no, you can't compare between eras. Like you can't compare the nuclear threat in 19.
Well, because you're directly comparing the nuclear threat between eras. No, when you are comparing the nuclear threat between the Soviet Union and Russia, I can say we directly fought with Russians during those time periods, and it didn't escalate to nuclear war. So why now, when they are historically weaker and we have no reason to actually go into Russia? There was a time in the 1990s where we could have just wiped Russia off the map, and we didn't. Why now would they escalate to nuclear warfare in a limited theater sense when we're fighting the same campaigns? Why the hell are you
scared?
Well, do you think?
Why are you scared? Hang on. If that's your position, why are you scared of Chile getting nukes?
Because the Russia of the 1970s was entirely different than the Russia of today.
Okay, but you're saying, I know the argument.
So the argument goes, right? They were able to engage in war, outright war in the Cold War, and it didn't lead to nuclear blows. What reason do you have to think that Chile getting weapons would lead to nuclear war as opposed to engaging in direct conflict?
Because there was a chance at that point that they could have had nuclear supremacy over us if they deployed there and we didn't have the capabilities to fight down there. And then they could have launched a first strike and wiped us out without us even ensuring MAD, because we didn't have the capabilities to detect the launches from those areas. We didn't have the resources.
Okay. But now MAD is all assured, and so there's practically no threat of nuclear war.
Yes, and there's also the fact that we had nuclear supremacy during the 1990s. When the Soviet Union dissolved, if we really wanted to affect regime change in Russia, we could have, one, invaded, or two, we could have just done a decapitating strike and just wiped Russia off the map and before they even knew, and they wouldn't have a chance to respond. And we didn't do that, and I think the Soviets would respect that and not escalate to a nuclear war, because they understand that we're not going to fight that type of war.
Pisco, there's also the difference of, he was talking about conflicts in Vietnam and Korea, and those things escalating to nuclear war would have been China nuking the grounds of its allies versus having the threat of having nukes stationed near America's borders.
Destroy America.
Right.
What did China get the nuke in the 60s or
50s, I think?
Okay. I don't know, bro. It seems too dangerous. I think you're playing with fire. I think like the big fire is firing on Russian troops.
You're a loose cannon, Rage Pope.
The big fires are the hundreds of thousands of civilians that have been dislocated or killed in Ukraine. Like, you have.
We keep pointing out like hundreds of thousands, but sure, but like the world was way worse when everybody was in like active fucking open conflict with each other. Yeah, there's definitely like a shitty scenario for some people now, for sure. but like it's way better than it was historically, which I think is worth paying attention to. Like the world functions in a different way where open combat between places is relatively discouraged. There are still atrocities that occur, but it's way better than it used to be, I would say.
I'm scared of this, like, even, let's say it's just, there's no nuclear threat rage probe. I'm scared of a broader conventional war between Russia and America. That seems like an ultimate disaster.
Why?
I'm scared for American civilians, American troops. I'm scared for...
Do you think Russia has the ability to hit any targets in America without nuclear weapons or without ICBMs?
I'm not sure. Do they?
All right, so if Russia couldn't even take Ukraine.
Okay, but Russia has...
Now they have to do it.
But they could attack our bases. They could attack... you know, it would be insecurity in terms of trade relations and... What's up?
So there's already problems with trade relations, but our conventional capability is so asymmetric to anything that Russia can put out that it wouldn't be a conflict in the same sense.
I think the problem too is, hold on, when we think about these affairs, it's very tempting to run these as very like unilateral, like one country versus one country. But it feels like there are worlds where this type of stuff could start to change the balance of the conflict very quickly. So we're talking about like Russia's very limited ability to do anything or to deploy forces to the United States. Russia wouldn't have to do that. Some sort of like military conflict that would pressure countries in Europe could quickly change the balance of how willing the United States is to sustain any type of military action, or even theoretically our ability to project force or project military actions, depending on how other countries around the world feel. No? Like look at how in 2013 when Syrians started to mass exodus from Syria across Europe, that changed Europe's appetite for American conflict in the Middle East. It changed, arguably, you could argue that Brexit happened because of stuff like the Syrian refugee crisis. I feel like whenever wars happen, this is kind of why I push back sometimes when people are like, oh, well, if they would have just did this military action, they would have totally won the war. Well, hold on. There's like 50 million branching possible paths once you start talking about big wars that could change the balance of a lot of different things.
I think the thing for me is that by not standing up, you're breeding more conflict. By allowing these atrocities or other things to go on.
Ways, right, that aren't direct conflict.
Yeah, I just think you have to have like a good way to stand up. Like it's got to be a limited, which is why I think the Ukraine stuff has been so positive. It's because like we're not going past this, but you better believe we're going to go up to this line as hard as we fucking can.
Yeah, but we're drawing the line so low in the sand.
So low, really?
The line is don't attack Russians directly until they invade NATO. I don't think that's we're doing it.
No, we said we weren't going to give them ATACMS. We weren't going to give them high-powered weapons until there was a larger invasion. I think that's a very weak line in the sand.
That's
like, I think there's a lot of weapons that we could have delivered to Ukraine a lot earlier, a lot faster. We could have done a lot more trading, a lot more aid, and I still don't think we would have crossed any red lines coming into direct conflict.
I agree.
I know. I'm talking with Destiny.
We also have to reserve some of our capabilities in case things pop off, in the Strait, which are happening right now.
Sure. Yeah.
But like, if you're willing to do all this, you're willing to have an American invasion of Ukraine and Crimea, why aren't you willing to fucking go in Afghanistan? Why won't you just say that you want to do it right now?
I think there's a difference between having the justification and saying that we absolutely should. I think that if we go into Afghanistan, the cost of the Afghanistan civilians is going to be very great, and it's going to cause a lot more instability in that region, whereas the Ukrainian region is already destabilized, and there is already
what about South Ossetia and Abkhazia and Transnistria?
We should have gone in way earlier in the 90s.
Okay, no, but now, like, let's say Biden.
Now,
okay, I'm gonna give you a bunch of policies rage, and you tell me if you agree.
Wait, can I ask one question, and you can do your thing?
Sure.
So I'm curious. This was kind of my argument in that, like, if we wanted to depose Saddam Hussein after the first Gulf War, I think we are totally within our rights to do so. But after that, I think you have to leave him. Weren't you arguing for Iraq that we could have gone in afterwards and deposed him during the Iraq War because of bad things he did?
We gave him 7 conditions, and he met none of them. So yes, that gives us the right and the
conditions.
Ability.
Who cares about the? Okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
all right. Wait, so a bunch of policies. One, we already went over if Biden announces tomorrow we're invading Crimea and we're sending ground troops to Ukraine and we're making attacks on Russian positions there, you support that?
If we were to engage in limited attacks on the Crimean Peninsula, American forces.
Oh no, whatever whatever was necessary in terms of American firepower and American military assets. The way that the general saw it was the best way to do it in both Ukraine and both in Donbass and in Crimea.
Yes, I don't. I think the reason why Russia went in was because we weren't willing to do anything to defend.
Same thing in South Ossetia and Abkhazia, even though those regions, there isn't like the same active war that's going on with Ukraine. You would if Biden tomorrow announces
at the time there was no way to know whether things were going to devolve or not.
No,
the Russians banked. With historical hindsight, then no, I don't think we should have done South Caucasia and Ossetia. But at the time, we had no idea how it was going to devolve. If anything, I'm talking
about the policies I'm proposing right now are in 2022. Joe Biden announces an invasion of South Ossetia and Abkhazia to liberate them.
I think at that point, that's Russia basically saying you're now invading on our territory. Versus if we were to invade in Ukraine, we're pushing them out of territory that isn't theirs. I think once they hold their sham referendums, then Russia is now creating a new red line that we're unable to cross. And I think we should push that line before they're able to draw that.
But you don't think they've drawn that line with Crimea yet?
I don't know.
Okay, listen. Can we just all agree that Darius did nothing wrong?
Yeah, he got pretty shit on the
Wait. So why you think that there's actual red lines that Russia has, and that's obviously any mainland Russia?
Yes, and I don't know if Crimea would fall under that. Yes,
Crimea doesn't fall under that.
So I don't know if Crimea falls under that. I think Russia would. I don't know if Russia would think that it does or not. But for the nuclear red lines, yes, sovereign territory of Russia being taken is one of their nuclear red lines, or their explicitly stated ones. I don't know if they're going to follow the written doctrine or not, but that is one of them, yes.
Okay, so South Ossetia, Abkhazia, those are red lines that you would not support an invasion of those places because of the threat of nuclear war.
Yes, and I don't think the cost is worth it. I don't think Russia is really doing anything bad enough to their citizens that would justify that, if that makes sense.
And if tomorrow, last one, I promise, and you guys can move on to whatever. If Joe Biden announced, this is a mistake, pulling out of Afghanistan was a mistake, tomorrow we're sending back in 100,000 troops to defeat the Taliban, would you be in support of that, or would you be against that?
I think I would be against it. Again, I think the destabilization and damage you're doing to the region is a lot more than the uncertainty of what's most likely going to happen in the future. I think the likely scenario is that you end up with a failed state like you see now, but I don't know, and it's very unclear. I think the Afghani people have to forge their own path. But as soon as we start seeing certain signs,
the wrong path.
What?
Unless it's the path that we don't agree with, like Chile.
Well, again, I think Rachel's whole argument is that we could afford letting Afghanistan go their own way right now because we're not under the threat of Soviet supremacy.
In the worst case scenario under Afghanistan, we might get another 9/11. And as bad as 9/11 is, that's entirely different than nuclear bombs going across all across America and West Europe, or just Europe in general. That they're incomparable, the harms that come out of that.
Okay. Nuclear harms.
Wow, you're so smart.
I mean, you could use nuclear harms, but it doesn't matter if they're using nuclear bombs or not. Say that was enough, Chile was enough support for them to have a ground invasion and destroy all of Europe, and that was the tipping point. It doesn't really matter what weapons or what means. It's the damage that it does to us. And I think the damage that could be done through Chile and through South America is significantly different than the harms that a failed state of Afghanistan with radical Islamic terrorists would ever be able to do to America.
Any thoughts on all this?
He's been gone for like minutes. You guys have just been running the stream. How do you guys feel? You're the host now. Yeah, you're the fucking substitute teacher. You want to be the cool substitute, right? While teacher's gone. Don't assign any homework.
So this is where we take the stand for the tankies and get them deplatformed off of YouTube.
What are we mad about right now?
Misinformation. Just we're the hosts. We're running the show since you were gone. So.
Cool. What do we start arguing about?
Well, do you agree with Rage Bob, or do you think it's crazy?
About what?
About all the stuff they just talked about for the past 3 minutes. Agree or disagree? Yes or no right now?
No, I don't agree.
Based.
Oh, nice talking to you, Rage.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you, Pisco, too. Wicked.
Okay, I have one last question.
Okay, go for it.
You haven't disagreed with a single invasion in American history, but if Biden announced tomorrow that he would invade, or at least there's no invasion that you know about that you disagree with in America's history, but if Biden announced an invasion tomorrow of Afghanistan, that would be the first that you disagree with, that you know of.
Yeah, because that's the first real invasion of our lifetime that didn't have a clear justification, I guess, or anything since the Second World War. I'm sorry, I don't study like 1800s America, or I guess I would oppose our intervention in Canada.
Why do you agree with the intervention into Iraq then?
What do you mean? He was all right. He weaponized rape against all like.
That wasn't
all,
the justification.
all sectors of
That wasn't the
society.
justification.
Yeah,
given
that was one of the that was one of the 7 terms that we gave to him. All right, so there was thousands of POWs from Kosovo who disappeared and were never given back.
Hold on, let's cut through easy. If there was no WMD justification given, would we have invaded Iraq?
I don't think we would have, but I think we would have been justified regardless.
Yeah, I think so too, but
unfortunately,
it's one of those things where it's like the will of the American people being upheld. If that's predicated on a lie or something that's never shown to be true, then, you know, like if we had a better moral justification, we should have presented it. And then what happens if the American people decide, well, that's not good enough for us, we still shouldn't go to war?
Yeah, because again, at the end of the day, you're just leaving millions of people just under whatever brutal totalitarian regime, because we're not willing to pay this whatever the price is. And I don't think the price was that high versus the amount of people we lifted out of poverty, even gave education the first time, and freed from essentially serfdom.
Well, nobody?
I think it's if you're willing to have a war because the regime is assume what you say, that Saddam. I agree, right? Saddam was a horrible dictator. The people deserve better, and he was exceptionally brutal. The Taliban is exceptionally brutal.
We should have done it in Desert Storm. I mean,
if there was no indication of WMD, would you be in support of the Iraq War?
Yes,
I still would have been, yeah.
Okay,
yes.
so why?
Well, because I think you have an obligation to protect people around the world if you have the capability to.
Okay, then why not Afghanistan now? Just bite it.
I don't think things are nearly as bad, and I don't think that there's
bad?
I think so. So the other impact that we have is there's no willingness from the American public to go back, and you're going to start impacting all sorts of other.
Well, hold on. He wasn't talking about willingness of the
Yes.
American public. He's talking about
Well,
your
because
willingness.
that's what's going to elect people, and we're going to get crazy fucking people.
Okay, wait. Now we're in like some crazy world where we can justify literally anything based on anything. That's what it's trying to feel like.
Okay, the actual answer to why we wouldn't go to Afghanistan right now is because things are heating up in places where our attention might be better suited. Like things are heating up for our EU allies and for Taiwan, where we have a
And in your mom's bedroom.
Well, things have never cooled down there. They've been hot since I was born. That's why I have so many brothers.
Something inside Absentfo in chat just said exactly what I was about to say, which is if you're focusing on democratic support, none of the things that you're talking about are, I feel like, would be supported by the American people. You haven't. This is the first time you brought that.
So, because when we're talking about Pinochet, you have to drape things in the background. If we're talking about things now, then we should be supporting democracies growing. It doesn't matter if it's the will of the people for it to be the morally correct action to take. I think that you do have obligations, again, to protect other people around the world, even if it's not popular back at home. I think you have an obligation as a citizen of the world to make the world a better place if you have the capability to. And I think in places like Iran and Afghanistan, we had the ability to, and the cost wasn't nearly as high as the...
Based on WMDs.
No, not based on WMDs. Even without WMDs, there was more than sufficient reason for us to go into Iraq.
Because he was a really, really
Brutal
horrible
dictator.
Yes.
But that's not true of Taliban because they're not as brutal as Saddam.
It might be true right now, but we have other priorities right now.
Yeah, there's now other things that are more important to us in the world than Afghanistan. If we were to stay there, then the cost, again, would be low. But now we're looking at having to re-invade the entire country, destabilize that entire region, fight against other powers that are expanding in that region who are now nuclear armed. And we're taking away from areas where we are actively having our allies and other free people of the world threatened.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the 90s
so
and 2000s.
if there was no invasion in Ukraine and there was no threat of China in Taiwan,
Okay,
then
you would
yes,
be
I would be
supportive of it.
supportive of. But because
Alright.
there's other things that we do, we don't have an unlimited military budget. There's not
What
an
was the
unlimited
point about
military-
American people supporting that? That's just that doesn't matter, right? If they support, don't support, why'd you
Well,
say
you're
that?
asking Rage Pope. I mean,
So if you're, or I guess it's a question you're asking me if 9/11 was to happen now instead of in 2001, and now we have these conflicting obligations around the world, or what are you?
Like, why do we care what the American people think? If
True.
All it takes if all it takes, from your perspective, you obviously don't care about what the people on the ground think, because what they think has no bearing on whether you're going to intervene. You just want to protect people. You don't care about what the American people think because you just
So
said
you don't think the people?
Wait, let me finish. All else equal, you would support the invasion of Afghanistan if it weren't for these other geopolitical interests. And so nothing about what the American people think is motivating what you're doing.
this hasn't been a part of the conversation since
Yeah.
we talked about the CIA and Pinochet, and that was
Yeah.
something that I think Destiny brought up, and I feel like we raised the question immediately, which is like, well, how does this override the sovereignty of other countries? You're just asking Rage Pup what he thinks we should do.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that. Again, there's a lot of things that are unpopular that are the right thing to do, anyways. And I think as a country,
Why did you say like we care what the American people think?
Well, I think it was a
Because
difference
to some
between like,
extent
should
we
we
do.
do something versus like, would it be good for us to do something or whatever. It was like a difference between
Yeah.
pragmatic.
Yeah,
thing
what's the cost calculus of everything that we have to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like,
And so if it's
willy-nilly would be
tremendously
really unpopular.
if it's extremely popular to go back to Afghanistan and it's not going to degrade our ability to recruit for the army and to fund the other arenas that we have to engage in, then yes, it would be. All else equal, then yes.
Okay,
we should.
wait. If you believe that, then for the second thing you wanted to talk about, why are you opposed to student debt forgiveness?
True.
So there's so many things. So even just on a macro level, it's just fucking terrible for us. So when Donald Trump cut taxes, we had the hottest economy of all time. We started running an extra $1 trillion of deficit. That's basically what Biden is doing with this student loan thing. We're just saying, hey, you know what? Things are really bad in the economy right now. Maybe we should just give out basically as much as we give in TARP bailout money. I think he's also tremendously underestimated what the further impact of that is going to be by changing the minimum threshold or the minimum loan threshold before income-driven repayment, and by decreasing the amount of your disposable income you have to pay on those loans, you've now created a massive range of incomes where students have no care about how much debt that they take. I want to say that if
Sure,
you're
I
making
understand. I saw the
$60,000
math on that like you could basically theoretically at some point like you could borrow $15,000 or $20,000, but if you're not going to make much money, you might as well borrow literally like $100,000 to pay bills and shit.
Yeah, and so I think that all the money that's come through the federal government has just basically gone to increasing the price of colleges. I think you're creating terrible incentives. I think that the economic
Hold on, let's talk. Wait,
situation-
let's go through this one at a time. First of all, just because access to student aid increases doesn't necessarily mean cost of college will increase, right? There must be some.
It does dollar for dollar. It's like 90.
No
cents on the
shot, dollar for dollar.
Yes.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, it's almost dollar for dollar. I can go pull up some stuff.
Is it?
But yes,
Hold
it's
on.
about
Is
dollar
it?
for dollar.
Is it an arbitrary increase in price just because they can charge more LOL, or is it an increase in price that's coupled with an increase in like the productivity of colleges?
It's because they can charge more. It's because they can now price discriminate more against everybody. So all the poor students.
What does the extra
will
money go
continue-
towards?
It goes to inflated administration budgets.
So when they do this, now an administrator that was making, because you said dollar per dollar, an administrator that was
Yes.
previously making 70, 80,000 a year is going to be making 500,000 a year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be shocked if that is the
Right,
case.
and
There's
then-
no expectation that any of that money can go towards facilities.
Yeah. There's a lot of money that goes to hyper expanded facilities. It's pretty.
Well,
extreme.
then it's not dollar for dollar, then, right?
Well, because
Well,
facilities.
it's a dollar for dollar increase in the cost of attending school. And
Okay,
the
wait,
thing
but
that
dollar
everybody
for
talks
dollar
about when people
increase-
go to school isn't that people are poor in school. It's that it's too expensive to go to school.
Dollar per dollar increase in cost of school isn't necessarily bad if it's coupled with an increase of the quality of the service, right?
Well, but is the quality of the service that we need, a $10 million stadium for our football players, or is the
Well,
cost
that
of
football
service-
players is a really bad example because I'm pretty sure all of
Sure.
those things are
Yes, but
massive
every
revenue
other sport.
generating things for colleges, right?
Yeah, not really. Only a handful of schools are revenue generating on football. That's only D1, and I want to say it's like the top half of D1. is revenue positive, and then all the rest of their sports are net drains. But they keep most of them up for Title IX. That's other. But yeah, no. So if there's a direct cost in the cost of college, then for every dollar that you're spending, and it's not going to improving people's educations, then why are you subsidizing that nearly to the extent that you are? It just doesn't make sense. If you're getting a better education, if you're getting more productive workers out of it, I can get it. And to some degree, yes, students should have, maybe a better experience than having, no air conditioning in Florida in the middle of the summer. But that's not driving affordability issues. If you're having a degree that is relevant, it is going to be a positive expected value for you to take loans to go to college and for you to pay those back. The problem right now is that there's so much government intervention in terms of free dollars given to anybody who goes to school. You're not allowed to discriminate based on degree, and you're not allowed to discriminate on schools or on groups of schools. And that's where the issue with loans is, and that's where you're going to see cost reductions in colleges.
Would you be in favor of Pell Grants being restricted or government loans? I don't know if this would be controversial or not, but making it basically so you can't take out any federally backed loans or get any Pell Grants for out-of-state schools?
Yes, I would be for that.
Gotcha. One of the craziest things that I don't like about colleges, not to sound like an asshole or whatever, but I do think it's really wild that in the United States, okay, so Europeans don't know this, but US colleges are really, really fucking nice. They're unbelievably huge compared to US shit universities, or compared to European shit colleges. It's unbelievable. But it seems like a lot of people will look at state schools that are really good. State schools have amazing facilities, usually really good education, and instead they elect to go to out-of-state state schools or out-of-state private schools, where instead of paying $20,000 for an education, they're paying like 60, 70, 80, over $100,000 for what's more or less the same degree, unless you're like doing like law school or something. Yeah, I don't know why people don't take advantage more of like in-state tuitions or even community colleges, but
yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's a lot of issues that I think that we have with schools. Yeah, I just don't think that this debt forgiveness doesn't make sense. The changes to the income-driven repayment, it doesn't address any of the fundamental issues that people have. This is literally just a massive cash stimulus to the people in society who can already afford things. I think that the debt relief to all the people who got scammed by those for-profit colleges is great and probably didn't go nearly far enough. But this plan is terrible. We're already having mega problems with inflation. I think Biden has underestimated the amount of debt relief that he's giving by at least $100 billion. And I think it's going to have massive impacts on continued revenue for year after year after year.
what is the why am I seeing some economists say that this could be theoretically negligible on inflation, or it could actually have a positive effect on inflation? What is the economic argument for that?
For the positive effect on inflation, I have no idea. Right now, the velocity of money is kind of low. If we are taxing and spending, I want to say it's like hovering around like 1.1. So every dollar that's spent is like $1.1 in GDP. Mm-hmm. And so the impact could be negligible because the velocity of money is slow enough right now. But again, things are increasing as the world's returning more to normal. But I don't understand the case. I think you have just you're crazy MMT economists that are going to say anything that they can.
Well, I don't think it was just MMT economists. I thought there were some mainstream economists saying that this could actually be like a net wash in terms of inflationary. I didn't read the articles on what the argument was, unfortunately, but
yeah, the wash on inflation is just because our money multiplier is so low right now, and because the impact of so if you're getting $10,000 off your loan, what you're not getting is a $10,000 in your pocket today. So it's less impactful because, that's $500 off of your loan payment each month for the next 6 months or 6 years or whatever it happens to be for the math. And so your impact over time is lower. It's not exactly the same as giving somebody $10,000. It's like saying you're now getting, an extra $600 a month in unemployment for a longer period of time.
Okay. Hold on, wait. Melina, just hold something. 1 sec.
Okay. All right, what's going on, chat? Oh, yeah, and if you want to talk about D1 programs that are absolutely losing fuck tons of money for their sports, look at Rutgers. Their school is like in the shitter. They borrowed a fuck ton of money to run their football program, and it's like fuck them entirely. But there are schools that do very well and make literally tens or hundreds of millions of dollars off the back of their athletes. So it's just going to be on a case-by-case basis. You want me to say Obama? Okay. Krugman disagrees with you. I don't think Krugman's a very smart guy. Um, yes, yeah, that's literally how it works. If the government taxes people, there's less money to spend, and it slows down inflation. Yes. Um, do I think college athletes should get paid? Yes, but I don't think the name, image, and likeness right now is a very good situation. I think it would have been much better to say to each school, you can pay your athletes this many dollars as a salary max each, or here's your pot of money that you can spend across. But I think it's really bad that there's not a semi-professional league for people to go develop outside of college. I think that kind of defeats the point of student athletes. But I do think that students should be able to make money off of them, because the schools, especially at the higher end, are making tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. But now it's basically, it's worse than the pro league, because now it's whatever booster can come up with the most money can just have whatever the best team that they want. Yeah, it could be on a per conference basis, a per school basis. But yeah, it's right now it's absolutely a disaster. I mean, there is a kid from Miami who was on the basketball team, and he's like, all right, fuck it. You know what? I saw a new player got paid $800,000. I want $800,000 and I'm going to leave your school. That defeats the entire purpose. Yeah. I think the fact that universities are also products fucks up the incentives. Yeah, of course. How am I so based? It was a 1v3, I think, not a 1v4.
Real quick, one other story I heard is that at Texas University, their football program, I guess this one kid earned the starting spot just by his play. And I guess the head coach was like, why the fuck is so-and-so the number one quarterback? And they're like, because he's a better quarterback. And the coach was like,
No.
we spent way too much fucking money on this guy who's the number two guy. So they named him through the NIL. They were like, our booster spent too much money on this kid. He has to be the starter. Like, this is going down
Tabor,
a
talking
very
about
bad
spending
path.
too much money on things, huh? What else do you think people spend too much money on, Tabor?
Cars, clothes, pets,
Anything else?
everything.
Oh.
Any luxury whatsoever. Nobody should have any luxuries if they're not making $1 billion a year.
Okay.
Based.
So he's being a Giga Chad. He's doing the irony thing to try to escape the real responsibilities of the statements he's made. Okay.
What did you do?
What'd I do for what?
How did you deal with the responsibility of what you said earlier yesterday?
I'm
Yeah,
fine. I was just observing
about
the whole event.
murdering that dog.
I'm good. I think that poor people shouldn't get pets. It's irresponsible. Boom. Or you can get them, but if they're real expensive and they're real young, it's time to excommunicado them.
Base. By the way, if you're not a vegan, you can't.
Oh
really have
no!
any takes about the
Tabor coming out with the
humanity
vegan
pets.
arguments.
Let's be real. Let's be real. You really don't give a fuck about animals if you aren't a vegan. And I'll leave you with that. My grandpa's calling me. Goodbye.
How about that one, Taylor? And there he goes. There he goes. There goes my hero. Well, glad we could do our 3-hour foreign policy argument today, guys. How you doing in the chat? I need another line of steel furnaces. What?
Wait, did Tabor leave?
And did why? Did that make you upset?
Well, I was interested to talk to him about his perspective on the NIL stuff, the paying college players, because he plays in football as well. But
NIL stuff. What about it? Isn't that old?
So-
Didn't they do that like a year or two ago, where they can get paid for
no,
likeness
it's
and
just
shit?
starting this season. Yeah, so this is the first season that it's active, basically, and
I
there's
imagine he's
just so much
definitely going to
slush
be
money.
in favor of it. There's no way he can be opposed to it. No.
I think in chat he said he was against it because of just like the massive inequality that it's creating between schools and the perverse incentives. It's the same reason why that we have salary caps and everything in football and everything else. I think it's just way too extreme.
Okay, true. I think all the perverse incentives are very bad. We also shouldn't pay any of the coaching staff either.
I don't think that I don't think the point of being a student athlete is to get paid millions of dollars. I think if you want to do that, you should be going to a pro or semi-pro league. And I think
For some of these leagues, I'm pretty sure for the NFL, you have to be an NCAA athlete to even get drafted. So if you're going to make that a requirement for your fucking career,
for the NFL, yes, but for the NBA, there's not.
sure. For the NBA, we're talking about NBA. We're talking mainly this a lot of this NCAA football is really what we're talking about, right?
It's but basketball is part of it.
Sure.
I
But
guess
like, if people are making, my understanding, and I could be wrong because I don't know fuck all about anything for sports, but my understanding is that college football is a huge thing. I don't know if college basketball is that big. College, right?
Yeah, college basketball is very big, but not to the same extent that football is.
Okay, sure.
Yes, there are schools that are making tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, but then there's a lot of schools that aren't even able to make a positive revenue off
Sure,
of the
I can
football
understand.
program, and most of
The
them
only
are
thing I'm
losing.
saying is that NCAA football is a huge industry where I'm pretty
Sure.
sure in like 25 of the 50 states, I think the highest paid public employee is going to be a big 7-figure contract for their fucking football team. In Nebraska, people like Callahan and Scott Frost are getting like $5 million fucking contracts.
Oh yeah, Scott Frost
Sure.
lost his 21st game. Yeah.
Yeah, good, because he's fucking trash. Like all of Nebraska football is post Osborne. But like what I'm saying is that like if you're having all of these people around you getting paid so much money and you're risking your entire future professional
I think
career
that's
in a
wrong.
league, that's fucked.
I don't think it should be going through the university system. I think there should be a semi-pro league that you're going to instead to get paid.
If that alternative existed, I'd probably be more in favor of it. But yeah, otherwise college football just feels so predatory towards the athletes.
Yeah, it does. It's the whole point is like it's student athletes, but right now it's basically the gateway to the pros. And I think that by saying, okay, we can pay all of you and we're going to cap it on this amount and we're going to cap revenue and we're going to tax it out to all the other schools that are running athletic programs, I think that would be a much better system and would develop that parallel semi-pro.
Isn't there already aren't people already kind of ass mad about like Title IX stuff? Isn't that like Title IX shit on steroids?
Yeah, so what's really funny is, Title IX is like so bad. So
how is that
my
not like
friends,
Title IX on steroids though? No, like we're gonna take the less successful teams, we're gonna make them pay money to colleges.
Well, it is. Well, I think Title IX is worse because it forces you to close out sports within your own school. So like my friend went to Rensselaer Polytechnic. They had to like shut down. I want to say it was like the wrestling team and like 2 or 3 other teams because they're running like 80% guys there under Title IX. Whereas that one is just saying, okay, well, you're just not going to have revenue producing sports at like certain schools, which I think is like a little bit different. But yeah, the impact is going to be big, and you're just going to see the biggest schools just continue to stay big, and everyone else is going to adapt and become irrelevant. Yeah. All right.
Very well.
All right. Well, if David's not coming back, do you have anything else on the student loan stuff? Or
No, that's it. I love you, buddy. Be careful, okay?
I'd appreciate it. Take care.
Have fun. Bye. Wow, guys.
Sir, if you have a complaint, I suggest you submit it through our email system. I would be happy to refer you to our website.
You are done. Fired. Do not show your face at the laundry again.
Okay, is that really that good? Good ass meme. Uh-oh, Mel's coughing. She's dying.
When the Pebble Rebel.
As a commander, you must be ruthless.
Yes, you must be ruthless. Yes, ruthless is exactly what I just said, Grok. To show your ruthlessness.
I want you to kill this puppy.
Fuck, what is this commercial?
I eat puppies for breakfast.
Or movie? Or TV show? Or...
Before we begin, I must ask you, why all this? Why go through all this trouble? What drives you?
For what they did, they must drown in blood.
Well said.
Do you know what my favorite...
It's the Lord of the Rings show? Shut up. No, it's not. Fuck off.
thing to do with puppies is?
Would you care to elaborate on that?
No. I'll show you.
All right.
Can't believe she actually did it.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
What is this from?
When the
Good one. Wow, numero 81 blah blah blah. Thank you for the 20 gifted YouTube memberships. You are amazing. On God. On God, my friend. On God.
1 million Iraqi children died after Kuwait war because of sanctions, followed by complete destruction of a nation was justified. But Ukraine, crying cat face.
What would a bad occupation look like if the U.S. is always infallible to him to the point no scenario or choice is wrong once we do it?
Based.
How's this Pope guy feels about Israeli human rights violations and it's taking territory from its neighbors while being a super apartheid government. Russia projected an entire counter-intervention campaign. Syria reversed America's intervention in like 2 years.
Please call Lav. Why? What is wrong with you guys?
Hell, grant money.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Everything is good right now except... Oh, steel. I need to increase that. That's next. Five-minute video on CNN meme blackmail.
Did not the USA cross that line with the bombing and subjugation of Japan?
Good question, my dude.
More on the allegations
Milkers.
that CNN blackmailed the user who created the anti...
Oh, wait, hold on. 1 second.
CNN Trump wrestling video.
So the Reddit user behind the Trump CNN body slam video is apologizing.
I've watched with sadness how the Cox News Network has tried to trample over our freedom of expression.
And they decided that they could get their pound of flesh from this individual.
July 2nd, 2017. Trump is browsing Twitter for some memes. He sees this one and hits retweet. Over 500,000 likes, and many, many more hurt feelings by CNN. As grown adults, how can they let it rest? They don't. They get their top investigator, your boy, Andrew Kaczynski, on the case to find the creator of the GIF. July 4th. CNN had found their man, user Han Asshole Solo. CNN was able to scour through his Reddit history to find his personal Facebook. What followed was an ultimatum. Delete everything or be doxxed. In exchange for his anonymity, Han Asshole Solo purged his Reddit history and issued an apology to CNN. From here on out, he was a hostage. In light of this, CNN issued a statement. CNN is not publishing Han Asshole Solo's name because he is a private citizen who has issued an extensive apology. CNN reserves the right to publish his identity should any of that change. Now, CNN had squashed the one who had stung them, but in doing so, they had stirred up the hive. 4chan was not about to let Han Asshole Solo be silenced in vain. Their plan? To create so many CNN memes that tracking down any single target would be pointless. July 5th. Their operation was a multi-stage assault. First, There was an alliance, an agreement between former frenemies. The second was a constant barrage of meme artillery. The third stage was to target the money that funds CNN by contacting their advertisers directly. The early strikes launched at CNN were through Twitter, the first making the hashtag CNN blackmail trending for many to see. And the second, getting prominent figures to tell everyone that CNN's hostage was a 15-year-old boy. Even Donald Trump's own son tweeted out that the person threatened by CNN was only 15. The only way CNN can then counter this accusation was by releasing the information they had on him, which would then result in possible legal ramifications and them being attacked further from all sides. Meanwhile, every forum, every feed, every platform was being flooded with CNN memes. As the situation escalated, Kyrgyzstani forces went about attacking the only thing that CNN really cares about: its ratings. The strategy was simple. First, download the CNN app, then rate it 1 star, then delete. Wanting to keep up the pressure, Alex Jones and Paul Joseph Watson created the first meme contest, $20,000 to whoever made the meme they liked the most about CNN. In the past, internet polls and contests were destroyed by 4chan shitposting. But now, an actual contest was born specifically for that purpose. July 6th. Reports started coming in by reputable media sources that were covering and condemning the meme war. This attention only emboldened the forces of 4chan and Reddit, but while some were celebrating, others were scheming. Already there were rumors suggesting that CNN had got the wrong guy. Could it be possible that this whole thing was started from a mistake? No, this was just more clever disinformation. In this manufactured fog of confusion, one final long-term plan was hatched. Thousands of undercover anons would begin using universal remotes to change public televisions off of CNN to further hurt their ratings. July 12th. A full week passed and new developments were scarce. CNN has seemingly been busy on damage control, having app stores suppress bad reviews. Publications that stand in solidarity with CNN have been churning out articles condemning troll behavior, and echoing the claim that people who make GIFs don't deserve anonymity. The most salient example of these publications is MTV, as they are now in production of a spin-off to their Catfish TV series. Except it will focus 100% on doxing people who like to have fun on the internet. Soon, on primetime television, you will see someone have their post history, real name, location, and face doxed on camera. So how this story ends could be up to you, as any one of us might be next.
Wow.
What will be the aftermath of this meme war? What's next for Han Asshole Solo and the Kyrgyzstani army? All of this and more on the next issue of Meme Insider.
There's your great Kyrgyzstani war.
What up, loser?
It's been a day. Hello.
Yeah, I see. Hey, what happened? Where's that compilation of you sneezing?
Oh, that guy quit. He's no longer a fan, I guess.
What? Remember the day that you fucking discovered that some fucking fan has made a compilation video of every sneeze you've done over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, all right, I gotta think about fucking quitting. Maybe it's a little much.
I mean, the girl shit is like a million times worse, but
the what shit?
Like all the random compilations with girls, like stands up, gets out of chair, or just like all the random weird fucking shit that people track on some of the girl streamers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What have you been up to today, Dan?
Just been.
I don't know. That's why I asked you, Dan.
I can show you something that's fucking crazy, but it's not going to be as exciting for you. I'm going to turn on my camera, but it'll just be for you temporarily, okay?
Okay, babe.
Turn on. Hold on. Okay. Wait, put on this. All right. So, I got my new gun for iguanas.
Okay. Oh boy. Can I show the stream, or do you just want me to see it?
I don't. Is it okay to show on stream?
Oh shit, no, I don't want to risk it. Sorry, fuck, because it's YouTube. You can't show guns, and if they think it's real, it's some dumb shit.
Yeah. Let me see. Where can I put this so you'll see it? All right, I'll put it here. Oh shit. All right, so this is the thing. Right now it's by CO2, but I have a high pressure air tank that's coming with it.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. We got to give it power. Okay. All right, we're ready. You ready, Steve?
Yeah, I'm
This
watching. Wow, that's definitely something you definitely need to hunt iguanas.
Dude, these iguanas are gonna be fucked.
Do you ever worry that your neighbor's gonna hear some of these noises and wonder what the fuck is going on over there?
No, because I told all of them. I was like, see, I'm smart. I went up to them and I was like, hey, listen, you hate iguanas, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, listen, I'm taking care of them. This is the new equipment I'm using. It's a little loud if you hear it. Don't worry. And they're like, that's fucking awesome. So yeah, that's it. But it's a full auto. Right now it's at 800 rounds per minute, I think. I don't know. There's a selector on it.
Jesus,
and,
you're gonna like explode their little iguana fucking bodies.
Dude, and it's BBs, and I know normally you don't want to use BBs for iguanas, but these ones actually go at like 900 FPS, so that like goes right through their head. It's perfect. Instant death for them. No suffering. They said it's awesome because they're afraid of what would happen to kids. All right.
True. Do you like my guns? My crazy... Yeah, Dan. They look real cool, dude.
You can call me if you have any critters on your property.
True.
I just have a red dot sight on it, which is fine. I'm not really... Usually the iguanas are like, I don't know, less than... I don't know. They're not far, really. Like 10 yards or less.
Do you have any words for any disappointed fans tonight, Dan?
About what?
About your Tabor's behavior yesterday.
I mean, Tabor was a little frisky, but I feel like I was pretty both sidesing it very hard. So I feel like I'm unimpeachable from that. If you go watch it again, I was doing a little bit of stirring, but I was stirring from both sides because I don't take sides with that. You know, I was there and I was like, you know, I brought in Melina, I brought in Sushia, you know, I made, you know, on both sides. So that's what you do. And also, I made Darius, okay? I can do whatever I want with him. He is my literal child. Without me, he would not exist. So, he's my toy to discard if I choose.
Jesus Christ, Dan.
It is a cute dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you been up to anything fun today, or?
Nah.
Okay. Based.
Yeah. What about you? Getting into trouble, I imagine, as usual?
Nope, today's been pretty chill.
Okay, well. It's always tomorrow.
True, true.
Link the gun. It's a Baikal Blackbird. I'll link a video of it.
Well, do you want to do this without getting a sponsorship first, Dan? You might be selling a lot of these guns soon.
No, they went out of production like 10 years ago.
Ooh, you got a black market, World War II, Soviet era.
Yeah, they're made in Russia, you know, and they don't do exporting anymore. Not for a while. Dan, do you clean up the dead iguana body? Of course, they'll stink otherwise. Yeah.
Wait, is your wife a dual citizen, or is her Russian citizenship gone?
No, dual citizen.
Are your children automatically dual citizens?
Not automatically. You have to go take them to the Russian embassy in New York, but she did that for both of them already.
Oh, cool.
Technically, I think I can get Israeli citizenship, I think, but I don't. I think you have to like go live there or something. So is the Lord of the Rings show already out? I know the other one, the fucking Game of Thrones one, is out. I watched the first episode of the Game of Thrones one.
The House of the Dragon shit?
Yeah.
Is it any good? I'm like so kind of traumatized.
I feel...
I don't know if I can watch it. I don't know if I can bring myself to do it.
I don't know why they're not getting more known actors, I guess, is my main thing. Like, who do I know from this thing?
I kind of like it when you're watching like a movie or a show and they're kind of being brave with their actor choices. I don't know. I appreciate that.
I'm trying to think. So who do I know? Okay, I know Hattie Considine. Is there anyone else that I know? I actually think I only know one person that I've ever seen before. Here, look at the... is there more? Like here, look at this, look what I'm sending you here. Do you know any of those people?
Let's see. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know that guy in the top right, but I feel like I've seen him before.
I don't know any of these people now. Jesus.
And this is like the cast. It just seems weird, like.
Yeah, because Game of Thrones had a lot of like pretty mainstream actors, even for
and it feels like they're okay. Listen, we're gonna do a sequel. We're gonna spend a fuck ton of money on getting the rights to do a sequel and everything else, or prequel or whatever. But yeah, let's just not have any like known actors at all. Okay, you know, it's like, you know what everyone these fuckers are doing? They're all copying like the fucking new Star Wars shit. Where it's like, okay, you know, none of the old guard, let's just all get new people. You know, but even then, they're still having one or two people that are kind of somewhat known, I guess. Yes, Rise Eye fans. God, I want to suck his dick so fucking hard. How could I forget about Rise Eye fans? Do you know about Rise Eye fans? Man, God, what a fucking Chad Thundercock, that fucking guy. Thanks for telling me in chat. I forgot. Oh my God, I just wet my pants with anticipation. Wow.
Okay, to be fair, actually, now I'm thinking for the first Game of Thrones, except for Sean Bean, I don't know if there were very many mainstream actors in the first one.
You know, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even know if I know who the fuck this guy is. I'm looking at. I don't know who he is. He's like, what? Do you know who this guy is?
Who? I don't know who the fuck you're talking about.
Here, I'm doing this. Who is this guy? People are fucking. Who is this? Was this the guy that was in the scene in Pulp Fiction? The All Right Honey Bunny guy? That's what he looks like.
Shroud Blur, you gifted 5 more subs. Thank you. Okay, hold on. This guy. I'm sure he's been in something. I don't know.
I don't mean Bruce Willis, you fucking degenerate. The guy at the diner who was saying it to that lady right before they tried to rob everyone.
What? Are you talking about Pulp Fiction?
Yeah. Like I was saying, is this that guy?
Is it?
I don't know. That's like, do you know who this is? No, not really. Dan, you're face blind? Well, I don't know who the fuck this guy is. I'm trying to find one thing where I know who the fuck this guy is. I didn't watch Morbius, so I don't know who the fuck that is. Nor do I care. Well, I watched like half of Morbius, and I was like, alright, I feel like I'm in on the memes. I can stop watching now.
Morbius?
Yeah. God, is that fucking what movies are available to be pirated? I feel like I was checking for so long if like Top Gun was out in HD and shit. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, we got Nope. Okay. Oh wow, we got some movies that we can watch. Hold up. Okay, what do we got? Let me see. I'm sorry, I'm looking. Okay. We got Nope. I don't know if Bullet Train is good. I know nothing about. Ah, it's just Cam. Never mind. Thor: Love and Thunder. Top Gun: Maverick. Something with Liam Neeson called Memory. I'm sure it's just a scuffed Taken.
Damn.
Day Shift.
Liam Neeson
Prey.
sure did Taken definitely relaunched that dude's career into like the most one-dimensional movie type of person ever. I guess him and Denzel Washington are like the same actor now.
Is that true?
Yeah.
No. Well,
isn't like every single movie he does is like some like revenge thing, and then like every single thing Denzel Washington does is some like revenge thing. Like they're like the same actor now. I think they do like all the same shit.
why would Dan pirate if he's rich? Because that's an easy question to answer. That's incredibly easy to answer. So if there was a way that I could watch a lot of these movies for $5 to $10 in high quality, I would do it. But there isn't. If you want to watch these movies at your home, like after they're released, you actually have to spend, I think it's like $10,000 or $20,000 a month to get like some sort of.
He's talking about the weird theater shit again, guys.
Yeah, that's the only way. Now I could go to the movie theaters, but I'd rather kill myself. So that's my option. So until they decide to make it so I can watch it at home, then yeah.
Okay.
I just don't like the movie theaters. I don't care. And why are you laughing? Why? I haven't misspoken.
You weren't at all misspeaking.
I was not.
It felt like you were like really scared of doing it. You were like hesitantly stumbling through the sentence to make sure you didn't bump into anything there. Bump into any misspeaks.
I was speaking very clearly and concisely, and I knew exactly what I wanted to say. Sometimes my thoughts, they just go so fast, my human form can't keep up with it.
Okay, that's fair.
Why are you laughing? You can't pre-laugh.
I'm not pre-laughing. I'm just laughing at what you're saying. It's just funny.
Dan, you could stop being a cheap fuck and wait. I just said I don't want to wait. How about that? Okay? I want it now. And if you're not going to serve me, then I'll find another way to get served. What the fuck is...
What are you talking
about? I don't know. People bitching and moaning about something or... Hey, look at the other thing I sent you before those photos. Do you know how to do that?
I didn't look at it. It's probably going to be some moving camera shit.
Yeah, it is moving camera shit. It's just like a very slow right to left type of thing.
Damn, so if we're doing a thing in the beginning, we're going to have like 3 people on. I don't know if we need like camera.
No, but it's really cool. It's really, really cool, that effect. Like how it's just like the camera is like very slowly moving to the right in a wide shot. Why are you laughing again? I saw that
I'm not laughing.
You were laughing, and I don't like it. Okay? This is a serious thing.
I'm watching the camera. It's just...
Yeah, it's just moving. It's not like anything crazy. It's just moving right to left, slowly.
You're going to be like fucking Kubrick directing our podcast?
No, it's not that. Listen, do you remember back in the day, it wasn't Adult Swim. It was like late at night on MTV. They had cartoons, and one of the cartoons that they had was like Dr. Katz, fucking psychiatrist, right? And it was a low budget animated, TV show, right? Animation show. And the way that they saved some money, they came up with this thing called Squiggle Vision.
Okay.
And what it was is that even if nothing was happening on the frame, okay, you would feel like things were happening because all of the lines for like the characters and everything like that were kind of constantly moving. So it gave you the illusion that things were happening even when they weren't. So I think the effect of doing this on a wide shot where we might just be talking, but the camera is very slowly panning from right to left, would give some element of keeping people like involved and making it seem more well done. So that's all.
Okay. Yeah, it could. Makes it look more professional too, yeah.
Yeah. I did the one point I think that on your post-mortem of the dating show. I do agree. I from the comments I read, it feels like people really liked the first 30 minutes more than anything else that we did.
Yeah, that's a big one. You have to be really careful at reading comments, though, because the people that are writing are unfortunately not representative sometimes of the same people that are listening. So, like, for instance, like, there was a lot of comments for the first two that it was, like, really boring and, like, horrible shit, but I almost hit, like, 8,500 viewers on the second one, so clearly that's not representative of what's going on. So you have to be careful in balancing out, like, the comments with, like, what's actually going on.
Where are these viewers coming from? Like,
some are being picked up by YouTube algorithms, some are probably my YouTube viewers, but just be aware that, like, people posting in the subreddit aren't always representative of what people actually want to see or what's actually going on.
Huh.
I think we do need that. The segment where we chat in the beginning, though, is probably important. Yeah, but I have that. But the what were the other pieces of criticism I had?
We could do something at the end too.
Yeah, maybe.
we could rate people or something. I don't know. Like, you know, a big part of why the shows like what was it, Kevin Samuels and shit like that, those shows go so well is that everyone calls in thinking that they're going to be the one that like breaks the system. The one.
Yeah, that was my number one. That was my number one point. Was that I think the most important part of the call-in section, the entertainment rests on the quality of the callers. So drafting.
Why are people doing sweat sneeing? I don't understand. I don't.
Something about Kevin Samuels? I don't know why people are doing sweat sneeing. Oh, he said we should people are acting like you said we should rape people instead of rate people.
No, rate, like rating.
Yeah, I know, they're being edgy.
Jesus fucking Christ.
True.
The idea is like people would come on to Kevin Samuel's show and other shows like that saying all this shit, and everyone comes in with the expectation, I think, that they're going to be like, oh shit, like you actually got your shit together. All right. Yeah, man. Wow. Congrats. Yeah, keep doing it. Or something along those lines, or just being a colossal shit show. And I think that us at the end of the show kind of doing some sort of rating system or something could help that. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, maybe. I just want to be a little careful that the balance shouldn't be just like we're just here to like make fun of the viewers, because that's a little shitty.
Honestly, can we? Like, think about it for a second, though.
I don't think those types of things are that sustainable, because then here's what I don't want. This is something you have to be so careful of when you're doing kind of like, I don't want to say anti-fan stuff or like negative stuff, is that what you eventually start to run into are people that are just baiting hard. And then eventually we're going to run into people that are like, oh, look at my profile. Do you think it's okay? And it's some guy that's like obviously fucking trolling. And then that's what all of the kind of content.
That's why we have screeners.
Yeah, but at some point it's going to be hard to tell who's who, right? Because people are going to be trying to game the system to get on because they think it's going to be funny to troll.
Here's my thing, is that I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. And you can say I'm wrong, and that's fine. I think most people are here for the way that we communicate and have fun and talk about this, and like very much not so for the actual advice.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. It's probably it's going to depend on who the caller is, and it's going to depend on the segment we're on. It could go either way, though.
I mean, I just can't imagine people being like, oh, you know, I wish Destiny and Dan and Erudite would just like take this super seriously. Like, this is really important. Stop fucking around. Let's like actually give each caller 30. It's like, that sounds boring as fuck.
Well, no,
like,
it can't be super serious. But I don't think it can also be where everyone is like ultra memes and it's just like here's like.
Have you ever watched you know, old radio shows would do like there was one from when I was younger. I don't think it was Adam Carolla. There was some really fucking old like grandmother or something that actually did the show that was like a sex doctor or something. I feel like I'm never going to be able to remember the name of this.
Love Line?
Was it? I don't know if it was. No, Dr. Ruth. That's what it was. And it was like I feel like in my mind, it was a really good mix of humor and actual advice. And shit was kept short and sweet. I don't like that one of the things I don't like is that we're only getting to like spending like a half hour on one person's completely boring shit to me seems like not a good idea, honestly. Like someone comes in here
it depends. I think this is something we super disagree on. Like, it feels like there are some stories that if you dig a little bit, you start to run into like really interesting or really entertaining parts. We just have to get to it a little bit quicker. I don't want to just like zoom like 2 minutes, like every single person in and out.
No, of course not. But I think that we need the flexibility of like, there's stuff that we could have drawn a lot of shit out of. Like, maybe it was a bad example with, you know, Bing chilling and someone being very similar to that and like posting articles and stuff like that. But like, I feel like we're going to see stuff where there's going to be a lot of humor that we can have. We can bring out a lot of fun on these things. I think that's what people actually care about. None of us are particularly experts in anything dating. None of us are fucking like sex.
I have a lot of experience.
And fucking up and fucking relations up. Yeah, I guess if they want. But
you can give me a single piece of advice. You can meme if you want. I know that you've been with one woman for 72 years.
Here we
but you
go.
can give me a single piece of advice that I've given that you think is wrong, and I'll fight you on any particular thing if you want. You can meme with Chad if you want. I understand you've been in one relationship for 17 decades, but if you want to challenge me on a piece of information, that's fine. The vast majority of information related to sex and relationships are given online are given by crazy fucking MRAs that have no context in normal dating, or it's from literal fucking virgins who just say retarded shit. So if you think there's something I'm wrong about, you can feel free to tell me. But
okay, I'll give you a hot take.
Go.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
It has the fucking jalapeno icon like I showed you on Twitter.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know what? When you put in your fucking Tinder profile how many followers you have, you might as well be standing in front of a fucking Ferrari in front of a mansion. Same shit, motherfucker.
Okay, number one, I don't put how many followers I have. That's fucking weird. Okay.
You do that. Someone said you did.
No, I don't. I might write that I do like YouTube or something, and then I've got a link to my, because you can link your Instagram on thing, but I don't put like, this is how many followers I have, number one. But number two, I'm not going out there arguing that people all need to be like famous YouTubers, or that like, oh, my Tinder experience as a famous YouTuber is going to be the same as yours or whatever, but it also depends on how I present myself. But then also, this is like, because people always give me this criticism, they go, oh, well, like you use your career, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no shit. If you're a fucking lawyer or a fucking doctor, you should use your career too. That's going to apply to anybody in a successful career. No shit. Like if you're a lawyer or you're a doctor, you should have that somewhere in your fucking Tinder profile. Why would you not include that? When people are like, oh, well, try doing it without putting that. Oh, so what? I'm just some 33-year-old unemployed fucking loser that has nothing to show for the past 13 years I spent out of school? Like, yeah, okay, no fucking shit.
The idea is that might be a little bit, unrealistic for most people. Like even if
for normal people, sure, but I don't always have it in there. When I was in LA for a long time, I didn't have it in there. When I was in Nebraska, sometimes I didn't have it in there. Like there's different. But again, if you want to challenge something that I'm saying, like, oh well, he gave this piece of advice. Like I've always said that Tinder is hard. Even for me, Tinder is hard. Even when I put my shit in my profile, Tinder is hard. I've never said like, oh guys, Tinder is so easy. Like you'll have no problem. And then you're like, oh, Destiny's just saying it because he's got a lot of followers. Like what? Like this is always the thing. You're doing the same thing that fucking the Reddit does. Okay? People always say like, Destiny's out of touch. He does blah blah. Oh, well, give me one piece of advice I give him that's bad. Nothing. Crickets. Never a single thing. Never a single thing.
First off, would you defend all of your food takes?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, at least you know. Okay, that's fine. All right.
Okay. Well, there you go. Fuck you. See, not a single thing.
What I'm gonna have to do is I have to go back and remember some of the things you've said that have been retarded, at least in my mind. But I can't do it on the spot because I don't have like a little section in my fucking brain where it's like Steve's bad takes. It's only like the really egregious ones. All right.
Okay, fine. Anybody in chat?
Let's just go back to the podcast.
That's what I thought.
Just shut the fuck up.
No, because everybody on the fucking subreddit says this shit too, and you came and you fucking echoed it, and I just wanted to be shown. Let the record show. All right, Dan echoed. Yeah. Oh, what? Oh, you got something? Didn't think so.
I it's remembering. I need to remember better. All right, give me time.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Anyways.
Oh, the letting your neighbors beat your kids take. Sure, Dan can chime in on that one. Not beat your fucking kids, you moron. When my kids go over to somebody else's house, my assumption is that they're going to be subject to that parent's authority. If I don't want them to be subject to whatever punishment they apply to their kids or whatever, I just wouldn't have my kid go to their house. But I would never tell another parent, this is what you can or cannot do to my child. That's weird. Like, it's their house, it's their rules. If my kid and the kid he's visiting fuck up, I'm not gonna have one kid getting disciplined while my kid is standing there like, no, it's their house, their rules. You need to learn to function like that. That's a life lesson for Nathan. That when you're in other people's areas, when you're in other people's societies, cultures, whatever the fuck, you're a police officer, you have to respond and respect to their authority. That's part of growing up and being an adult.
I feel like
I
feel like if my daughter or my son was like, hey, I'm gonna go play at Nathan's house, and I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Is his dad okay with it? And parents are okay? Yeah, we talked. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And then I find out later that like some motherfucker pulled down his pants and was smacking his ass, spanking him.
What the? Wait, stop.
You're saying spanking him, right? What do you think's happening here? Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Defend yourself. What What is wrong with you? You can't laugh away from it. You can't laugh away from this. If my kid went to someone's fucking house and some fucking man was slapping my... What? What? You can't... This is your take, you fucking degenerate. You think it's like, oh, well, sorry, Nathan. You went over to High Nighter's house. You should have known.
Hold on.
What?
I've spanked my kid before.
Okay.
Like tap. Not like hardcore, but like, why do you have to pull down their pants?
Well, back
to give
in the
him
day,
a little swat on the butt. What are you talking?
Back in the day, I got it with a belt. I guess you just got.
I'm not talking about a
pussy.
belt. I'm saying if you said
Why
like a
not?
fucking,
Hey,
if you said no, you don't have to pull a kid's pants down to spank them.
Okay, well, I guess we just got different spankings. Mine fucking mattered.
If my kid went to somebody's house and their parents were taking his pants off, there'd be serious fucking problems.
So what the fuck are you talking about? Why? So you want some fucking old man? Like, okay, let's say his pants stay on. It doesn't matter. You're okay with some old man slapping Nathan on the fucking ass as hard as he can?
So Nathan's 11 now, so spanking's a lot. But let's say this is a thing, okay? Let's say that in this parent's household, let's say that they still smack their kids a little bit. Not like beat the shit out of them, but like if they cuss, they get a little smack on the face or something. We'll say that happens to an 11-year-old. A little weird, kind of extreme, I would say, for an 11-year-old, but let's say that happens. If my kid was over at a house and he was in front of their parents and he says like, oh yeah, like this is fucking bullshit, and then a parent reached over and they smacked him on the face, and he came back and he told me that. He's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'd ask him, well, what the fuck happened? He's like, oh, I did this, and they smacked me. I was like, okay, well, then it would be my choice. Am I okay with my kid being disciplined like that or not? Well, I would maybe ask him, are you okay being over there, being disciplined like that? If he says, oh, no, I don't think, okay, well, don't go over to their house anymore. And then boom. I would never go to that parent and be like, listen, you can't discipline my kid like this when he's in your fucking house. Because if he's going to be in their house around their child and they decide to discipline their kid that way, I disagree with it. I don't like it. But I'm not going to go into their household and tell them how they can discipline my kid when he's in their house. He's a guest in their house, and he's subject to their rules and their authority.
All right, to be clear, I believe initially that you were talking about legal things that you can do. As far as I know, you can still fucking... I feel like you made it sound like I'm insane, but back in my day, you would get fucking bent over a couch.
Okay, I'm not talking. That's weird. I'm not talking about that. That's
what do you
weird.
Mean? That is like probably the
weird.
most common way of people like getting fucking disciplined. You can laugh about it. That's what people fucking did. So what are you okay? So are you okay with like someone fucking smacking Nathan on the ass 10 times? A spanking?
Okay,
that's what it's fucking called.
If my kid was like 4 or 5 maybe. 11 is weird. No, okay, 11 is weird. He's 11 years old. I don't know if you touched little 11-year-old kids on the butt. That's kind of fucking weird. Okay.
But what the fuck? You said it was okay. He's like, well, you go over to High Nighter's house. He's gonna spank you for any reason. If you
it's gonna be age appropriate. Do you think if my 17-year-old went over to somebody's house and got spanked?
I don't know.
I'd be okay.
You might ask him.
It's gonna vary the punishment. Like, let's do something more realistic. Let's say that let's say Nathan is 13 or 14, and let's say that their rule is if you swear in their house, you have to clean your mouth out with soap. I think that's crazy and weird, but if he swears at their house and his friend and him have to wash their mouth out with soap, then that's what they do. And if I don't like it, then it's on me as a parent to say, you're not going to that house anymore. I don't like how they discipline their children. But I'm not going to ask them to give unfair treatment to 2 kids under their roof. They have their child, and if they've got a guest over, they're subject to that household's rules.
I feel like you're doing a little bit of weaseling right
How am I weaseling?
Because you said... You're now trying to choose a less extreme punishment.
No. The punishment has to be age appropriate. You can spank a 4 or 5-year-old. No, Dan, if a 17-year-old is getting spanked by like a 36-year-old MILF or some shit, that's really fucking different than what we're talking about, okay? But if Nathan was like 4 or 5, then yeah, I can understand it. If I don't agree with that type of disciplining of the children, if I don't have that conversation, before I leave my kid to somebody else, that's on me as a parent. It's their household, it's their rules.
But it sounds like it's not their household, their rules. So what about if in the fucking...
Well, not if they're going to rape my kid or something crazy like that. Obviously,
wait,
that's not okay.
Why is it okay to smack a 6-year-old? So let's say you're at High Nighter's house and someone's there misbehaving, your kid's there, and he starts fucking slapping your 6-year-old on the ass for 20 minutes. Holy shit, 20 minutes long. It's his house.
There's going to be like...
Is that okay?
There's like, probably societally speaking, there's going to be like a reasonable... like line of where I would expect punishments to be. Now, just from what I've heard, and when I was raised, now my parents didn't hit me when I was raised, but in terms of hearing people getting like spanked or whatever, right? Like I've heard of that happening. And I would expect that could be a possibility if my kid goes over to some place and misbehaves. Now, getting his pants taken off and like beating the shit out of with a belt or like a wooden spoon, that's not in the list of things that I would consider societally normal.
So to me, I feel like we as society,
Mm-hmm.
okay, have decided that like we can't all agree on
Sure.
where the lines end and start when it comes to physical, like what's okay, what's not. Like,
Mhm.
is it okay if someone is reaching into a cookie jar and I smack their hand away and it's not my kid? I would say that should be okay, right? I don't know if I would do that, but I think we as society have agreed, like, we don't fucking know, so we just don't hit other kids. Because that doesn't fucking matter. No matter what you do that shit, you might fucking end up in jail. So,
Damn, wait, okay.
So, to me...
Maybe it's a Midwestern thing, but that's not my...
No, I think if you fucking lay your hand on someone else's kids, there's like a 50% chance that some fucking dude is going to come over and want to fucking murder you.
Did you grow
later
up like
day.
that?
I grew up with my dad fucking beating the shit out of me. I didn't grow up with anyone else. If it's funny as this, like my dad would fucking spank me or hit me with a belt on the ass and shit like that if I was bad. But if he fucking even thought that someone else fucking like looked at me wrong, he would go beat the shit out of them.
Okay,
So-
interesting. I feel if I grow up, I feel like in staying over at like other people's houses or family members' houses, that if I would fuck up over there, there's no way I could go crying to my parents or my family like, oh, well, I did. They'd be like, well, why'd you fuck around and find out? Not in those exact words, but
I think you're wrong. I think if you came back, let's say that you're 8 years old and at someone's house, and you came back crying to your mom and your dad, and you're like,
if I came back like
Hold on,
crying
hold
and
on.
I have like welts all over my
no,
body.
hold
yeah,
on. Let's just say you were crying, and they say, what happens? And you said, I forgot to take my shoes off, and then they hit me a lot. Your mom would go fucking ape shit. You can't say, well, their house, you don't take off the shoes, you don't want to go back there.
If
And
it
you're-
was like insanely disproportionate, yes.
What the fuck? You can't keep making all these rules. This is just...
Hold on, what do you
hit
mean you
other
can't keep
people's
making all
kids.
these rules? It's just part of like disciplining children. It's a complicated process. Yeah, if they didn't take their shoes off, you're gonna fucking beat the shit out of them. It's probably not gonna do it. But if it was like for swearing at them or for being disrespectful to them or for breaking something or for hurting or hitting somebody
So
or
what
for
about
like
you accidentally knock over a fucking vase? And
Oh,
now
come
you
on.
get, like-
Oh my god. Never mind. You're right.
No, I
Well,
am right.
What if you go
I am-
inside and you accidentally step on the dog's tail? In that case, like, and then the parents come out and then they have a 357 Magnum, but they just shoot you in the knee. Is that
No,
okay?
but You're being ridiculous right now. You're completely out of pocket.
Dan,
Okay,
back in
listen.
our day, there were still schools where the teachers spanked the kids.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. But I feel like now, today, in 2022, if you, anywhere in the United States, if your kid went over to someone's house and that kid came back saying that anyone there, aside from the other kids, that's if you're like, hey man, fucking Johnny punched me in the face because I called him a retard, you're like, well, you better kick the shit out of him tomorrow. That's different. But any fucking adult, okay, I'm even talking about older sibling does shit, it's fucking on. Okay, we're time to fucking spend like 6 months in the joint after that type of shit. Okay, that doesn't happen.
Damn.
You're
wild. You're a
no,
wild
you
man.
are-
You're a
I mean,
wild man.
I can't wait if Nathan ever comes over here and looks the wrong fucking punch that kid
Now
over
I
the
understand.
fence.
I must have just grown up. My parents were nice, but I feel like I grew up with such more hardcore rules. This is it reminds me of the defensive property take. This is like one of those things where, and I can see why you think that my position is crazy, but in my world, it's so obvious. Like if I was over at a friend's house and dude, especially my black friends growing up, holy shit, because their parents were scary. If I was at that house and I were to say some wild shit, I would actually probably expect to get my ass beat.
Shot.
Absolutely. That dude's
shot.
dad was scary. Holy shit. Yeah, I would expect to be in huge trouble.
And
then when I would go back home, you better believe I wouldn't tell my parents fucking anything. I wouldn't say shit. I don't want them to know that I was up to some wild shit at somebody else's house. But I don't know. Maybe it's just totally different.
I feel like you might be stuck in the 80s, and I'm sorry that that's the case. But we live in the 2020s. You can't do this anymore. Okay, you can't. This is and I'm gonna be honest. If my kids come over to your house at any fucking reason, I'm gonna have those motherfuckers wearing GoPros. You gotta be on your best behavior. All right.
I don't believe in spanking. I'm not a spanker. But I'm saying, damn, if I fucked around at some other parent's house, I'd expect some shit to happen. But okay, I got it. Damn, you guys just operate with impunity in the world. This is why you guys are all against defensive property and everything. You guys just are fucking wild. You guys will just do whatever the fuck.
And I have done the mouth washed out with soap thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like even that would probably be the line for me, I think. Like if my kid went over someone's house and they were swearing or supposedly swearing and they said, yeah, they washed my mouth out with soap, I feel like I wouldn't do anything about it, but I wouldn't let them go back.
Yeah, that's what I feel like it would be on me as a parent. Like, oh, well, I found out, oh, well, they disciplined you this way. I don't support that at all. Like, you're not going to go to that dude's house anymore. Like,
but that's like the line. That like I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to do anything and be like, those motherfuckers are crazy. Because I can't imagine like putting soap in another kid's mouth like that if they were talking back.
Let's say your kid still wanted to go over. Would you go and tell their parents? Would you say, hey, listen, if my kid does this, you're not allowed to do this?
No, I would be like, tough shit you want to go over there. You ain't go over there. Those people are fucking insane.
Okay.
Something, you must have had a worse childhood than me. Every time Steve goes over to a friend's
I guess I just grew up with a fuck around and find out mentality. That's what I always say. If you fuck around, if you're through the wrong person's yard, they might come out with a shotgun and fucking kill you. Or if you fuck around near some cops and you're fucking around on the payphones, dial 911 and run away and shit like that, you could get arrested and thrown in jail. I don't know. That's the shit that I was always told. If you fuck around as a kid, that's why we always make sure not to get caught doing anything. Because if you got caught doing some dumb shit, your parents are going to bail you out. You're going to have to be subject to whatever fucking authority is near you. That's how I grew up. That's what people told me. But
no, your shit's wild,
I guess.
Honestly,
Okay.
you're fucking.
All
You're out of pocket, crazy, wild. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. It's just. But anyways, I feel sad for the childhood you had. Hey, Mom, I'm going over to Joey's house.
don't misbehave, or you're gonna get your ass beat.
You know that Mr. Peterson always has the fucking belt out ready. So just get it over with the start. Just oh man. Well, what are you gonna do? Wild.
Huh.
All right, back to the podcast. Listen, so I want to try and make it better, at least for the dating advice thing.
Sure.
I feel like a lot of it gets kind of sleeps to me, personally.
Some of them do. It's okay.
Personally.
Some of them do. Some of them are really exciting. I put another thing in there. Another one of my suggestions that'll help a lot too. The DMs need to be cleaned up and edited in a nice way so that they can be put on screen. Because I think that would add a lot to it. Because some of the DMs, because requesting DMs or making a requirement was a good idea for callers. Because some of them are really entertaining and give a lot more story. But I think it'd be better if other people could read them. The audience needs to be able to see them, I think.
Yeah, I think certainly.
Like that one girl with the boyfriend and the D&D shit. Those were some wild DMs.
I don't know if we could have done it. Like the guy who had the doctor wife, right? And he sent us the photo. That would have been really funny because she was fucking smoking hot. Sure. And I was over here, like, chat doesn't know what's going on. And I'm like, I'm ready to leave my wife. Where are you at? I want to talk to this girl. I'm better for her. This is the type of shit that could be really good to do that.
As long as the stream can see them. Yeah, it has to be vetted so that the people know that like stream is going to look at your shit. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's good. I do still have a problem with how long some of these really boring ones go on. Like, I feel like we can identify pretty quick when some of these things are kind of boring. And I don't think that we should dwell on it that long. Like, something really...
Something with Eric that I said is that in a chat, I didn't mention this to you, but if two people type next, then we just kick them off as quickly as possible and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
That's why she was typing next sometimes and I was typing next. Because if two people type it, then you just get them off as soon as possible and they go to the next thing. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you guys were typing next for the dude to like...
Oh, no. Next means next, like get rid of... Like, we're done with this caller.
Okay, well, it would have been good to be fucking filled in on that piece of information. Because I just assumed you were telling the dude, like, okay, bring the next caller in.
You just got filled in, so...
Oh, my God. Well,
now
great.
You know.
Fuck, what else could we do? So, I feel like... humor is the big thing we have. Like, the reason I'm on this show at all is obviously not because I've been married for 20 years, but because the three of us banter very well off of each other. Erudite can be like the serious psychiatrist type person. You can be,
hilariously
the
epic,
the kind of crazy takes. And I can be like the fucking slapstick comedy Joker type of thing on this, where sometimes has good advice. And we bring that in together. But the problem is that when we get into shit, when it's like, yeah, so my mom just died of cancer, and I have to take care of 2 kids, and I was just wondering, like, the best way when I go out and I try to do dating, I just start crying. I'm just going to be silent for this entire fucking show. I can't really, like, there's no humor that can be in this entire segment. I don't think we should do that.
Serious calls ever?
Not to that level. Like, what type of thing I can do? Like, be like, oh, is your mom hot? Yeah. Like, what the fuck am I gonna say?
Listen, yeah, make it funny. That can be part of the
No,
shtick.
you
They know what they
can't.
signed up for. Yeah.
You can't. I can't do that.
Yep.
Trust me. I
Try harder.
get in a lot of trouble doing shit like that with your mom stuff lately. But like this is the type of, I think the call-in screening needs to. We need to have serious problems, but serious problems I can make fun of. Okay, not serious problems.
Well, write some of these things in there so that they know nothing
There-
serious. It's all gotta be
someone-
light and Dan approved. Dan funny
Well-
memes.
Fuck. What else could we do? I feel like there's got to be better suggestions we have. I really like. So that guy who was kind of bantering with us, was that the doctor wife guy? It may have been. But the fact that like we had the summary, it's like, you know, he thinks his wife is fucking other dudes. I was like, oh, the summary here says your wife is fucking other dudes. Like, no, I didn't write that. That's not true. I have other things. I was like, oh, that's what it says. So what's happening with your cuck wife? Like, that's fucking good shit to do.
Yeah, but
there.
it's hard to figure out like charismatic callers. I don't know if the screener is going to be able to figure that out or not.
Yeah, no, probably not. But I think at the very least we can. We need to get them down to a paragraph. Too long? Some of these people will just fucking. I shit you not. Maybe I'm not a good payer of attention. But I'm into this shit for like 10 minutes, and I have no idea what the fuck answer we're supposed to give or what the question is. Right? I need to know. You come in. What is the fucking test question? Okay, it's how do I stop being a bitch-made motherfucker? Or is my wife cheating on me? Or whatever it is. Say that, and then let's hear the story, and then we'll go from there. But no, very predefined. What do you want out of this needs to happen, because then we can keep tying them to that. Too often, motherfuckers come on call-ins and everything else, and they just want to ramble, and they don't have an issue. I need a fucking problem that you need answered. Okay, I can't get my dick up. Okay, why not? Are you hard in the morning? All right, well, then it's not a physical problem. It's emotional. You know, other shit, we can go and do this stuff here, but there needs to be a problem that we can answer. And I feel like that's a big issue that we haven't had moving forward, is that people just come in and ramble and talking about crazy shit and just want general life advice. Like, I don't know, don't be bitch made. All right, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that would help a good amount. Yeah. So how do you do that panning thing?
I don't. There's probably some fucking cart device or some shit. I don't know what.
Okay.
It is exactly.
You wanna figure it out? Because I think we need that.
No, let's keep working at the kinks of everything right now before we figure out the most advanced fucking.
Why?
Camera equipment.
We're obviously gonna take this to the next level.
We don't know that yet. Maybe this format dies and we have to do we need to pilot like a different type of show.
I guess the real question, yeah. All right, I'm not
The
gonna
real
say
question,
that.
what? Say it.
No, I
say
can't.
it.
I can't, and I won't.
Oh my god, bitch made, guys, bitch
Yeah.
made.
Well, I guess I was gonna say the real question is if you'll still be platformed then, so we probably shouldn't sign any leases. But
good one.
Yeah, sorry.
Good one, Dan. Very respectful.
Sorry. What else? What else? Well, I don't know what else.
When are we gonna have a Dan Iguana Hunter segment?
I'm worried that if I actually did that, people would get upset, like PETA style. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
No, I think people actually really would get. There's animal rights people that are actually really, really upset about that type of shit.
Even for fucking iguanas?
Yeah, especially iguanas.
Especially iguanas. Okay.
People have iguanas as pets, I think.
Okay. It wouldn't surprise me.
I say especially because people have them as pets. I don't know frequently, but enough. Are they protected or are they a pest? They are an invasive species, which the state of Florida requests that you dispatch them.
Exterminate with ruthless prejudice. Is there any update on whether or not Trump is going to represent himself in...
You know what's kind of crazy? Apparently, have you looked at who his current lawyers are?
No. Oh, yeah. It's like a fucking real estate lawyer. It's like some random...
He literally has, Better Call Saul as his attorney. How do you even... I'm trying to think.
I don't know, dude. He's just...
And they are fucking shit up so bad. That is the funniest shit in the fucking world. I'm trying to imagine though. Let's say you are Saul Goodman, and you're just like, "Hey guys, I'm Albuquerque's best defense lawyer when it comes to your DUI. Call me." And then you get a fucking call. It's like, "Hey, the ex-president would like to hire you for his case on January 6th." Are you like? You're like, okay, this is obviously a lot of press. I'm obviously going to lose because this motherfucker is guilty. Like, I don't know why would you accept that? I feel like there's nothing but just huge downside for doing it. You're probably not going to get paid. Your career is probably going to go to shit because you're not going to win. Like, it's like, do you want to take an L? You want to take a free L? You'll get your name out there. You need some Google rank. Like, I don't know, man. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Pretty wild.
Fucking wild beyond belief.
His whole life is wild. God, he's gonna run for president again. That's gonna be good viewership. Jesus,
it's crazy.
Damn, Brandon's doing work. Do you think he's gonna do? You know what the alley oop would be? Is if we could get fucking marijuana, dude.
Yeah, but I think he has to do that closer to midterms to try and get people to. Dude, could he just say, "Hey, if we win big in the midterms, I'll get marijuana legalized"? Could he just literally say that? Like, that's the Andrew Yang strat.
I have no idea. It'd be pretty funny.
God, I feel like if Democrats weren't such fucking pussies, they could 100% fucking slay everyone out there doing those types of strats. Like, hey guys,
I don't know how much they can do via executive order. That's always the hard part. Right?
I think you can just literally, by executive order, pardon every single person that's in jail for marijuana only.
It'd be a little unprecedented, I think. I don't know.
You do that, and then you basically do an executive order saying that moving forward, that this is no longer illegal. I think that's an executive order they can sign.
We want to do drug policy like that via executive order, or would that be a little spooky, though?
Who's going to be the one that makes it illegal again? Like, maybe you can do it via executive order and then say, I want Congress to follow up and approve this in a short period of time, like to do something that way. But, man, you would fucking kill. What's the approval for legalizing marijuana at this point? It's got to be pretty high. Like over 50% at least, right?
For marijuana, you'd think so, right? I don't know what it is, actually.
The problem would be getting people out of jail. No one likes that. In fact, maybe we got to keep them in jail, honestly.
What if it's people who are only nonviolent drug offenses?
Well, here's the thing. Why are they in jail? They're not in jail for smoking marijuana. Why are they in jail?
Probably for selling it.
No.
Why or for doing another crime and they got caught with marijuana.
Why are they in jail?
Because they didn't have money for a lawyer? I don't know what.
No, because they broke the law. That's why they're in jail. Okay? And they still broke that law at that time. Okay? Just because we changed something now.
Well, that's not normally how it works, though. I think when we make things legal, we retroactively forgive generally, don't we?
I don't know if that's the case. It doesn't work that way with the IRS. You don't get to go back in time and change fucking shit with that, right? If like,
what?
So for instance, let's say the IRS comes out with regulations next year saying, hey, we're regulating cryptocurrency kind of more conveniently now. It should be treated as long-term capital gains, but for the last 10 years, you've been paying it as, regular income. You think you get to go back and be like, oh yeah, okay, well I've done it all this way? Fuck no, you don't.
I think changing the tax code is different.
Okay, why? It's a law that you follow. Just because
yeah, there's a lot of things that are law. There's procedural laws. There's tons of different types of laws.
Okay, so tell me why it's different. It's a law on the books that you can't break or you have a criminal fine. The only difference is that it changes sometimes fluidly with new presidents that come in. That's it. Just the fact that a law may change means that what?
I think there's a difference between, like, you smoked weed and it used to be illegal, but now we've made it legal, so we've decided that that crime is okay, that it's not a crime anymore, versus, like, we used to make people pay to register their cars, but now we're going to collect tax in a different way. We're not going to register your car anymore. All those people are magically forgiven. I think it's probably treated a little bit differently.
Okay, let me try and think of an example of something that was illegal and no longer is.
Also, real quick, can anybody... Why the fuck are none of my drones bringing batteries, guys? Holmium accumulator. What the fuck is that? Is that a normal accumulator? Oh, it's like a different thing. Oh, God, why? My whole book upgraded. Oh, my God. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, fuck you.
I guess we have certain things with states having different laws. With the prohibition, did they go back and free all the people that were doing smuggling of alcohol? And
Smuggling, probably not, but people drinking, I imagine so.
Okay. Do you want to show me the pardon where they did that?
When prohibition ended, were people released prison? So people that manufactured alcohol when it was illegal were still kept there. This is for bootleggers. I wonder about the people that just drank alcohol. Oh, drinking wasn't illegal. It was the manufacturing of alcohol.
Well, to be clear, manufacturing was illegal and now is legal.
Sure, but I think it's going to be a little bit different.
Well, it seems like you're coming up with a lot of should be difference for no reason here.
Wow, Dan. Good one, Dan.
God,
you're just such a good one, Dan. You're giving us a lot of good ones today.
I'm just such a good debater. See, everyone gets down on me, you know? It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not to rub it in. You know my biggest W against you, right? I know you'll
definitely
never watch
not
this
the
one.
stop sign
No,
thing. It's
the
not,
biggest W ever.
It's not the mask thing. What is it?
It is the mask thing. When coronavirus first came out, and you dumb motherfucker said, "Why would you wear a mask?"
Not even close, Dan.
Why would you wear a mask?
So
You still touch your face.
You're
that is
so wrong. Imagine bringing this up
God.
this late away. How fucking cringe.
Oh man, you with the seatbelt defense. It was funny.
How cringe.
It's all right.
How do I change this thing? Upgrade items. How do I downgrade items? Can I downgrade items? Oh, that did it. Now, what's the easiest way now to change all of that? I know what I have to do. The W and L should has been a great contribution to this community. True. Okay, we're gonna delete everything, kind of, and then I'm gonna undelete it all. Boom. Oh god, oh god. True.
What's the plan to get Hassan and Destiny to be friends again? Oh boy, that's a...
He'll be a guest star on one of our podcast episodes when we're huge.
That's going to take a little bit of finagling, as my people say. That's a long-term goal right there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
What do you think of the WL community, Dan?
WL?
Yeah.
Like how people call you less than me, that type of thing?
It's like a whole community on YouTube. They do like W's and L's and stuff. That's like, I think that's the actual name of the community, is like the W and L community.
I think that's cringe, but...
Ooh, Dan throwing shade. Dan's gonna be beefing with people soon, guys. Careful.
If that's all they do is just put a W or a W or an L on things, you know what? Forget it. Let's just move on.
I like Mulan too.
MoveOn.org.
I wonder how much that Linktree site is worth.
Why?
It's just kind of funny that that whole site like lives on the existence of like girls on Twitch not linking directly to their OnlyFans.
You know, I built a site like this that was the biggest site. I did it before it was cool.
What?
Like the Linktree site.
Or wait, you said you had a site. What was the site or whatever? Or did you say you had built it, or just say you haven't?
No, I built it and it was huge. It was called Cardly, card.ly. Way back in the day. It was like the first site where you just create it and you put a bunch of links up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the newest version is now called Card, CARRD. Yeah, it was like, you could have like a cool theme and shit like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever use virtual or like on your cell phone, like the fucking cards or whatever? Any of that feature shit? Do you know what I'm talking about? Business card shit on your... There's actually like a whole file format that I think Microsoft tried to use for like business cards or whatever.
Oh, for business cards? No. I feel like business card shit's kind of mostly dead at this point. Like I have some nice metal business cards, and I don't.
I mean, there's like digital business cards I think on your phone.
Yeah, who the fuck does that? If you can't, like, you're still using a real. If you're going to a convention, which is the only time you're ever doing that type of shit, you're gonna drop a real card. Like I'm not tapping my fucking phone on your fucking who knows what infested NFC reader.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Why do you have 10K solar panels out? Because I need them. My accumulators are dying. I'm running out of energy, you dumb fuck. Don't question my power plant. I'm dying here. Dying out here.
Japan is big on business cards? Yes, I've seen that Vice segment as well.
Damn.
And they put it in a little tray and they go, arigotomasu, or something like that.
What the fuck?
See, I've been to Japan, personally. What about you?
Not yet.
No Japan? That's a big L. I've been a few times.
Yeah. Is that a good experience? Do you like it?
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
I've heard the same from everybody that's been there.
It's just another world, man. I mean, everything is fucking different. And it's so cool. It's just... It's like you're in cyberpunk, bro.
Yeah? What Tokyo's like? You said you've been to Hong Kong too, and it's similar, right?
Yeah. Hong Kong is like a grittier version of it, for sure. Way more gritty. Yeah, I guess Hong Kong is way more cyberpunk than Tokyo is, for sure, actually.
Wait, did you ever actually play Cyberpunk or no?
Yeah, I did. I beat it.
Oh. Were you one of the people that never had any of the problems I had, or did you have a lot of problems too?
What do you mean by problems?
Like bugs and glitches and shit. I feel like I ran into quite a few.
Nope, none.
Huh.
Did you beat the game?
Kind of.
What does that mean?
I got to the part where it was like, should we keep going or should we just kill ourselves? And I just killed myself.
What the fuck?
So, I mean, it's one of the endings. It is a valid ending for the game.
How early is that?
I don't know, but it was an ending and I did it. I took the easy way out.
You didn't like it. You know, in The Witcher, you never beat that spider either.
Yeah, true. I didn't build or beat a spider.
I'm gonna leave, okay? And then you're gonna be here by yourself playing this fucking boring ass game. Maybe fucking Rage Pope and one of those other fuckers can come in here and talk about Ukraine invading Zimbabwe or some shit.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So what other podcasts do you want to do once you have a physical podcasting space?
I mean, I probably should do something current events or politics related.
Oh, he's misspoke. Yeah, see? It's stupid and off topic, okay? That's why I don't do it.
So I have a story.
All right, so news. Okay, what else?
Something news and politics related, I guess, right? Something where I could bring on guests would probably be fun too, right? Why would about you? What's your ideal thing that you'd want to be talking on?
Well, stuff that wouldn't get us in trouble would be my preference, honestly.
Jesus.
When you go on these benders, you don't think about poor Dan and Tabor.
Stop.
And...
You're going to trigger me. And then I'm going to trigger you. Let's not do that to each other.
Sorry. Just, I don't know, like, we could, if we just did a movie review once a week, people would fucking love that shit.
That's supposed to be what we were going to do with Mootin. And then he left.
Well, why did he move? God, I hate that simp fuck going to another country. Move! Get back here.
You're going to trigger him. Be careful.
Well, who's moving to Miami?
What do you mean?
Well, we need a replacement for Moot now that we're doing podcast shit.
Oh, I can find somebody.
Is it going to be above a Miami 4?
I don't know. It depends on who you want. Bring Autistic Destiny down, okay? She's a Miami 5, all right?
Dan, you wouldn't drive 10 minutes to see Moot shut the actual fuck. Listen, these
Damn.
motherfuckers, they knew the deal when they moved here. I was fucking crystal clear with both of these cocksuckers from day one.
Whoa! Hassan, slow down there.
I was like, hey, I don't leave the beach. I drive a scooter. I don't like taking Ubers. I like it here. This is a safe, nice area to be in, okay? You should live in Miami Beach. And now there's fiber here, so you can move here and there's no excuse.
Brittany Venti has a podcast called Paranormality? What is this show like? Huh. Huh. Okay, well, anything else? I'm fucking tired.
Nope, bye.
I love you,
Hi,
buddy.
Netter. Time for Hearthstone. Let's go.
Hearthstone? What?
So I have a story. Okay, so man's dying wife asks, I don't mean to laugh, this is so bad. Man's dying wife asks if she can have sex with her ex just one last time. Any spouse would want to provide the love and care for their partner within their dying months and days. But one man has shared how his dying wife has expressed a specific wish to sleep with an ex. Posting to the relationship advice subreddit, the husband gave insight into his wife's condition and how the conversation of her controversial dying wish went down as he has no one I can tell. To begin with, he explained how he was destroyed, that his wife of 10 years had a terminal disease and expected to live at least 9 months. I don't remember life without her, and I don't know what I'm going to do when she's gone. I have been doing my best to make the last days of her life good and grant whatever wish I can, he said. On her deteriorating condition, he added, the doctor said that she was likely to need a wheelchair in 4 or 5 months, and by month 8 she'll be bedridden for the last few weeks. That's if she doesn't decline faster. After he provided the context, the husband got to the quirks of the problem. He said, recently she sat me down and told me that one of the last things she wanted to do was have sex with a previous partner of hers. I, of course, was shocked. And when I asked why the F she wants that, her response was pretty brutal, as she revealed. She basically thinks that her most physically compatible sexual lover was him. She gave him a whole monologue about how sex sometimes is just physical and how emotionally fulfilling sex is with me, but it was bullshit to get to the point. So now I'm left with, deny my dying wife a wish for my own ego, or let her go fuck another man that she feels was better. Honestly, I'm so pissed off and betrayed that she asked this of me. I feel like I'm put in a position where I have to say yes because she's dying. I don't know what to say, but I don't know if that's right. I'm so hurt by that sex with an ex was apparently so good that she needed to do it once before she dies. I hate everything about this. I'm not sure what to do, he concluded. After explaining the situation, the husband's post was met with a lot of responses. Some took the story to Twitter, where people began to share their thoughts and where people were divided.
There's no division. You should have divorced her on her deathbed. Just left her there.
Exactly.
Agreed.
How long she got to live?
Like 9 months?
Fuck off. Spending 9 months alone. Alone? The last 9 months you're by yourself. Alone.
So I have...
RTBA, what was the point of watching this? Yeah, obviously that's a fucked up thing to request. What is your answer? My answer is fuck you, bitch. I need a hot chocolate, and then I'll come back and stream more. What if there's a Starbucks that's open? Oh no. Oh no. Oh yes. Okay. You won't make it? I will make it. right. Other guys, I'll be back in a bit. Be careful. Almost host Erudite. You can go harass her. Let me throw a quick 900. 1 sec. Dude, what?